There's a guy from the Free Press named Joe Nocera who's going to join us in the first segment here after we do the open. And we're going to talk about how government works and how it doesn't work. But here's what Elon said. This was 2 hours ago. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. And one of the guys,
because why? I don't understand it either.
Okay, it's very nuanced.
I'm sure
it really is. And the problem is, and this is what Joe's going to tell us in a few minutes, there's a stark difference between what government is and how it works and how you want it to work. Okay, it would be awesome if someone could wave a magic wand. They cannot. They tried to do it with Doge, right? We went after USAID. We highlighted a lot of the things that should be cut. But in this process with reconciliation, there is no ability to do that. So here's the choice. All right. And I don't want to be apologist for the members of Congress who I do think in many cases don't have the intestinal fortitude to make the tough calls. And by the way, when you talk about pork, some of the pork, like some things we need, we all pay federal tax dollars, and some of it should get kicked back for projects in our own state. But there is no ability to do what Elon wants to do, and he doesn't really understand why that is. So now you have a situation where he broke bad on Trump, and they were asked about this in the briefing earlier this afternoon.
How mad do you think President Trump is going to be when he finds out that Elon Musk said, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it."
Look, the president already knows where Elon Musk stood on this bill. It doesn't change the president's opinion. This is one big, beautiful bill, and he's sticking to it.
So here's the choice. I mean, I'm just going to lay it out. I'm very honest about where things are. I've told you it gets repetitive for me to say that I've talked about this for 3 decades, because I've talked about this for 3 decades. You cannot get to a level of spending without addressing the entitlements. You just can't do it, right? This is separate from that. And yes, there's a lot of spending in here, but there are also tax cuts for everyone that stay in place. If, in fact, they don't do anything, if that's the choice, you got Rand Paul making noise in the Senate. Even Josh Hawley doesn't like some of the things with Medicaid. If that's the choice and they don't get a bill to the president's desk, and yeah, it's overstuffed because that's what they do. That's what they're good at in Washington. So you got choice A. Choice A is you get some form of this bill to President Trump. You take the good with the bad. The good would be the farmers are given a big break here with the estate tax. You got farmers all over the country that are killed by some of these tax structures. You have every American, literally every American, whose taxes will go up if they don't address this right now. So there's a lot of good in this bill. There's a lot of bad. A lot of it stinks. Some of it is an abomination. Can they address that then in the following months and year and a half before the midterms, because you have a clock that's going to run out? Well, I don't know. We had Jason Smith on, who's the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, last week. And, you know, I don't know if they can do it. I really don't, because I haven't seen anybody in Congress do it for a long, long time. So here's a little bit more from the briefing. Here's Caitlin Collins from CNN, who I just detest, but she actually asked a pretty good question here.
On the big, beautiful bill, you said recently that it is, quote, blatantly wrong to say that it adds to the deficit. You essentially said that an estimate from the Congressional Budget Office and other scorekeepers you believe are wrong. But Republicans like Ron Johnson and Rand Paul disagree. They are saying that it will add to the deficit. That is their concern. Is the White House's position that those 2 Republican senators are, quote, blatantly wrong?
Okay, before I play the answer, here's the deal. They are. They're not wrong. Ron Johnson is telling the truth. Rand Paul is telling the truth. I'm trying to tell you the truth. But again, you have to take, unfortunately, the good with the bad. So here's her answer, because she's not going to say that they're right.
So those senators, it's not news that they disagree with this president on policy, and the president has vocally called them out for it and for their not having their facts together. I would add the Congressional Budget Office has been historically wrong. In fact, they predicted the Trump tax cuts from the president's first term in 2017. Their prediction was wrong by $500 billion. Those tax cuts had nearly $500 billion more of revenue than the Congressional Budget Office scored. And we are very confident in our own economic analyses of this bill. There is $1.6 trillion in savings.
Okay, well, it's going to add to the deficit. I'm just going to tell tell you right now. But this is what I
Yes.
love. You got Chuck Schumer out there. Here's what he says.
I want to share broadly how Senate Democrats will fight this bill with every fiber of our being. It's going to be a long and drawn-out fight.
That's hilarious because, look, let's face it. They want more spending. They don't want less spending. They want more spending.
DOGE is going to cause lasting damage to the American people. He ought to be apologizing to the American people for what he has done.
All right, shut up. We don't want to hear that. But this, the only reason I played Chuck Schumer is because I wanted to play John Kennedy. And John Kennedy is one of our favorites, senator from Louisiana. This is just perfect. And I guess some of you have to be a little informed about what Chuck Schumer looks like and how he acts in front of the camera. But this is just classic John Kennedy.
Why not? Because they don't have the votes. And it's not about their tactics, it's just a math problem. What tactics? Well, Schumer says we're going to fight. He used that term 12 times in this letter. Yeah, when he did it, did he just do his arm real weird like that? Chuck always says he's on fire. And I love Chuck, but you know, they don't have the votes. It's just that simple.
I love the it's true too. The Democrats can't do a lot here because they don't have the votes. But I love how he alludes to how his arm is held in a particular way. It's a great visual that was conjured up there by Senator Kennedy. I would argue very strongly that Joe Nocera, who I've been wanting to get on the air here, he wrote this column for the Free Press, Why Doge Failed, is very well timed for what we're experiencing here with this tweet this afternoon. And I don't know about you, Fred. Let's keep a close eye if Trump says something specifically here. My guess would be he'd be rather diplomatic. I don't think he's going to beat up Elon like he would other people because he appreciates the service that Elon did, give to the country. But this is going to get kind of ugly, and it's going to give Rand Paul and Ron Johnson a little bit more ammunition, if you will. But we're off and running here on a Tuesday edition. Of course, we got Sue's News in the next hour. We have a lot of great Riley games tape. Jen Say from XXXY. A lot going on here this afternoon. Phil Holloway at 3:30.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
The most volume I'm seeing right now is on the Illinois side. 55, 70, and 64, all really slow at the split. So if you're headed into Illinois, there's slow-moving traffic from Route 3 to the 70 split and then on to eastbound 64 to 25th Street. And eastbound 70 is slowing at the split as well. Now, other than that, it's not bad. Now, westbound 70, moderate volume past the airport and at 141 and out at Highway A. 64, just moderate volume at Clayton Skinker. Heavier at the Boone Bridge and at Prospect. What is jammed is northbound 61. There's road work up there. Gosh, it's already lined up from Highway A almost to W because of it. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
All right, I have the Underdog Fantasy app open on my phone right now. The Royals are in town to take on the Cardinals, and you can have a little fun with the Champions game with Major League Baseball. Brendan Donovan, for example, is he going to have a home run tonight? You pick on the Champions game. How many fantasy points will he get? How many hits, runs, and RBIs combined? How many hits will he have? Wilson Contreras, you can do it with him. You can do it with Arenado. If you want to go to the pitchers, I'm not sure who's pitching tonight. I think that Ethan would know that, but you can pick the stats there as well. The bottom line is it's real easy to play. You can play now in Missouri. Millions of fans have won billions making plays on Underdog, and you have a little built-in advantage when you download the app because you can use my name. Doesn't get you very far in many cases, but if you use the promo code MARKR, that unlocks a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Again, the promo code is MARKR. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See underdogfantasy.com/web/deposit match terms. Concerned with your play, call 800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
Hi, this is Tammy Kershaw with Retirement Advisory Group.
Hi, I'm Bob Kershaw. As a family business, we are committed to protecting your retirement, whether you're nearing retirement or already retired. What if it were possible to protect you from market downturns without having to make an emotional decision to buy or sell? What if you could take advantage of a strategy that would automatically take you out of harm's way during the bad years and position you for the growth opportunity during the good years.
The secret is linking safely to the market without putting your principal at risk. By linking to the market instead of owning the market, you can participate safely on autopilot and lock in your gains without creating a taxable event. Go online to retirementkey.com for a no-obligation retirement review, and we'll teach you the strategy that has helped our clients retire with confidence for the past 39 years. And just for coming in, you'll get a copy of our latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. So go online to retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
Let's just face it, right? Your home should work for you, not against you. Hi, it's Kim. And if you've been dreaming of a new kitchen, bathroom, or a finished basement, now's the time to call Lakeside Renovation and Design. They're St. Louis's trusted experts in turning houses into dream homes. Just imagine this, a spa-like bathroom, maybe a chef-inspired kitchen, or how about a cozy basement perfect for some movie nights? Their team handles everything from design to installation, so you can just sit back and enjoy the process. Visit lakesidearty.com today to start your dream renovation.
We started Neovitin because we wanted to create a multivitamin for ourselves. That's why we focus on quality ingredients and formulas with our multivitamins. Neovitin 50 Plus multivitamins are formulated with over 20 vitamins and minerals, along with our 4-ingredient physician-formulated proprietary blend for the highest quality daily nutritional support. Give Neovitin 50 Plus multivitamins a try for yourself. Find them at your local Schnucks, Dierbergs, and online at neovitin.com.
A little controversy for your afternoon. The Mark Reardon Show.
Well, I'm going to introduce my guest here in a moment, but he could not be better timed for this moment because we mentioned this in the open. Elon Musk tweets out just a couple of hours ago, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." What's interesting is one of the first responses is, or at least it comes up on X as a relevant reply, is Konstantin Kisin. I'm a big fan of his. He's a British satirist and author and really great on commentary overall about politics. But he said this. He said, "I think this is what happens when a normal person is confronted with the reality of politics. It's dispiriting and infuriating in equal measure." And I think it was more than a week ago. It was the 28th of May that I found this column by Joe Nocera in the Free Press. I love the FP. I've recommended it to a lot of people. And his title was, or the headline was, "Why Doge Failed. You Can't Fix the Government Unless You Know How It Really Works. Musk Never Did." And this is so true. And Joe, I want to welcome you into the fray here this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me. But you could not be better timed this afternoon because your column essentially speaks to this moment exactly, doesn't it?
It does, although I must say, Konstantin, as much as I admire him, he just described Musk as normal.
Well, you got a point there. You do have because he's not. I mean, if we're just being honest, he's a little bit oddball to say the least. But I want you to share the story of Charlie Peters because this really resonated with me. Because here I did my show open, and I can say I kind of agree with Musk, but I also don't agree because there's things in this bill that I think need to happen, but it is so complicated in the federal government and these members of Congress, they call it the swamp for a reason. So tell the story of Charlie Peters, because I think this is important.
Sure. Charlie Peters, who I worked for many years ago, he was the founder and editor of the Washington Monthly. He came to Washington with the Kennedy administration as a member of the Peace Corps. And his title was Director of Evaluation. And it was a very unusual job. There was no other job like it in the entire federal government. What he did was went out into the field and he watched the Peace Corps people working in various countries, whether it was Kenya or whether it was Egypt or whether it was South America somewhere. And then he would come back and he would write a report, sometimes nice, sometimes blistering, and handed it into Sergeant Schroer, who was the head of the Peace Corps then, and changes would be made as a result. What are we doing wrong? What are we doing right? How do we do it better? What I said in my article was that, Charlie really understood the Peace Corps ultimately, and he knew it better than anybody. He probably knew it better than Sergeant Schroer. And the way that you fix the government, to fix the bureaucracy, is you have people who serve in that role, who are directors of evaluation, for lack of a better word, and who, come in and watch and say, Well, this agency, which was designed to eliminate locusts, well, we don't have locust problems anymore. So why do we still have this agency? You know, that sort of thing. But on the other hand, they can say, you know, the IRS would work a whole lot better if they had updated technology. Why don't we get that for them? Spend it on that instead of 80,000 new agents.
But one of the problems is
you
mentioned that he wrote a book called How Washington Really Works, right? And he describes how, and this is what's frustrating, I think, that the sole focus of government agencies is to ensure that their budgets never shrank, right? So, and I could use the Department of Homeland Security. We are in the aftermath of 9/11. We think we have to do something. It has grown. Well, I want to keep people safe, Joe, but it has grown to be this enormous bureaucracy. And let's face it, if we looked at the budget, it has grown every single year. And that's what happens in Washington.
100%. And to the point that, you know, I'm sure you've heard this story, you know, if it looks like you're not going to spend all your money by the end of the fiscal year, there's a mad rush to get the money out the door, a mad rush in agency after agency, because they don't want to be put in a position of having the OMB, the Office of Management Budget, say, oh, you didn't spend all your money, so we're going to give you less. It's almost unthinkable that something like that would happen.
So one of the lines that you quote from Charlie is, suppose you work in the Department of Energy and the energy problem disappears. What will happen to you? Well, the answer, of course, is that you'll be out of a job. Thus, the better course of action is to pretend you're working on the energy problem, thus ensuring your job security. I mean, I think that speaks volumes even to what Elon tried to do. When you look at some of the things that were, you know, out there that a lot of us said, okay, that's crazy that our taxpayer dollars are going to this. But then when you think about it over the course of decades, and I voted for Ronald Reagan. That was the first president I voted for. And I've heard these promises for decades from Republicans saying we're going to shrink the size of government. It never happens. It just never happens.
Well, it actually has happened once. You're not going to believe this. After I wrote that story, I got a manuscript from somebody who shall remain nameless because we might publish it.
Okay.
Where that said that actually once in the history of the United States, the government was shrunk, and it was done by, are you sitting down for this?
Yeah.
Calvin Coolidge.
Oh, okay.
Calvin Coolidge.
Well, I would say in the modern era, but that is interesting. But the numbers here are quite staggering, because in that book, we're talking about, and I'm in a freshman in high school in 1980, $579 billion is the federal government. We are now at $6.8 trillion last year. But what
it is astounding.
It is, but I keep always, and I've said this over and over, it gets repetitive. You can't address a lot of this. I mean, they can do what they want to pick around on the discretionary spending. You just can't do it without the entitlements involved. And nobody has the guts, the courage to talk about that.
No, that's 100% correct. Everything Elon did, even in the best of all possible worlds, was on the margins. The Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and the Defense Department, if you add those up, that's 2/3 of the federal budget. Now, you're not going to cut defense, at least not right now. No. The world is a dangerous place. So, you know, what are you going to do about Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid? Now, you know, a lot of people are dependent on Medicaid, and you see Republican congressmen, senators like Josh Hawley,
Hawley's got
saying,
"Don't
you dare touch Medicaid." That's because he knows it's ruinous politically if they do. But, you know, what should you do about Social Security? I mean, I paid into Social Security my whole life. I'm getting it now. I don't want to lose it, but, you know, do I really need it at this point in my life? Probably not. You know, same. And I'm on Medicaid.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm on Medicare. I'm on Medicare, like many people over the age of 65. And you know, it's a treasured program. So again, you know, you cut those programs or even talk about those programs at your peril.
I was having conversations in the early 2000s. I was at WTMJ in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I had a friend here from Missouri. He was the 9th District Congressman Kenny Hulshoff. Great guy. He was a former prosecutor. Kenny went to Washington, ran for governor. It wasn't well timed. But when I get up there, he says, you have to meet Paul Ryan. And he tells Paul Ryan, you have to meet Mark Reardon. Now, it's a danger, Joe, for me on a conservative radio station to even mention Paul Ryan's name, right? He's persona non grata. But in the early 2000s, Paul Ryan was pretty damn serious about at least reforming Social Security. And he was a policy wonk, and he was trying in the first Bush administration. That's the last real effort that we've ever had.
I agree with you. And Paul Ryan did become persona non grata because, well, you know why. He wasn't MAGA enough and he wasn't Trumpy enough. And that's just the way it is.
And I'm going to take some calls in the next hour. Look, a lot of people are going to be pretty hacked off about this bill and say, that's spending. But to your point on defense, we have Boeing here in St. Louis. There's a lot of money that flows through these contracts, right? A lot of money. There's people that have jobs. They keep their jobs. That's what makes it so complicated, I think.
It absolutely does. Take a much simpler example. The Army has been trying to close down bases that they don't need for literally generations. But all those bases are in congressional districts.
Yeah.
And all those congressmen go crazy, and they insist that the bases be kept open. And, that's just, you want to talk about waste, fraud, and abuse? There it is, right there.
Yep, it sure is. Joe Nocera, thank you so much. I'm a huge fan of the Free Press. You guys are doing great work over there. And again, this could not be timed better this afternoon. I appreciate you jumping on here in St. Louis with me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That is something we're going to do in the next hour. I do want to talk about Doge and the spending cuts. It is Telephone Tuesday, so after Sue's News, we're going to address that issue. I'll be very curious to see what people think about that tweet from Elon Musk. Phil Holloway will address that a little bit, too. He's coming up next. Fox News contributor, great friend of this program.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got a stall reported on northbound 55, kind of right on the ramp to Truman Parkway. Watch for that on the right-hand side. And emergency vehicles northbound 270 past Dorset. Looks like those are on the shoulder. We also have an accident westbound 70 on the Blanchette Bridge. That has created a jam back through 270. 64, mainly moderate volume Hampton out through McCausland, a little bit at 270, and headed for the Boone Bridge. Northbound 61 already looks better, but it's slower than usual due to road work. So as you approach Highway W, we've got slow-moving traffic that goes back through A. Southbound 55 slowing, headed down toward Bates. And there was an accident reported on the ramp. It looks like it's 44 past Lindbergh, but if on the ramp to 270. And heavy traffic eastbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic, 329 at 97.1 FM Talk.
So my wife is at a conference in Kansas City. She's been there for a couple of days. She just sent me a picture. Like the entire hotel is in the basement because of a tornado that just ripped through there. And I don't know how much damage was done or anything, but I want to point this out with Generator Supercenter of St. Louis, because you can get a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator from Generator Supercenter. They're the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. You can't tell me that there aren't people in Kansas City right now who do not have power. You don't want to be in that situation. Think about how hot and sticky it is today. If the air conditioning goes off, your freezer, your refrigerator, you're not going to want to experience that. The same thing holds true when we have ice storms, et cetera. Or it could just be an accident that knocks out a power pole or anything like that. No more waiting on Ameren to fix a down line. No more worrying about your home when you're away. When the power goes out, the Generac generator has your home back up and running within seconds. So a free estimate is just a phone call away. You can go to the store in Chesterfield as well. Generator Supercenter. Financing is available. The number 314-499-2020. Generator Supercenter of St. Louis.com.
Another RX Watch brought to you by Onder Law. There's an evil new twist in the tragic story of baby powder and its link to ovarian cancer. Recently uncovered documents reveal that talc can contain asbestos.
The same asbestos that we know causes mesothelioma.
Right, and ovarian cancer.
In the 1970s, the industry wrote its own rules, allowing Johnson & Johnson to claim that its talc was asbestos-free, as long as it contained less than 1% asbestos.
Of course, Johnson & Johnson helped write those rules. So while we're using hazmat suits to remove the asbestos from our homes, Johnson & Johnson was telling women it's safe for their bodies.
Unbelievable. So if you've used talcum powder for feminine hygiene and contracted ovarian cancer, call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
They've already won several large verdicts against Johnson & Johnson for women just like you.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH. That's 1-800-RX-WATCH or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is, who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset? Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardie contractor and Pella Window specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050. Now hiring qualified carpenters.
Get this, 42% of baby boomers don't even know how much money they have in their nest egg. If you're not sure where you stand in terms of getting ready for retirement, you should be listening to the All Financial Hour with Steve All.
Let's sit down and talk about your questions, because I think that's the most important thing that it is out there. It's what questions do you have?
Tune in to the All Financial Hour with Steve All, Saturday mornings at 6, right here on 97.1 FM Talk.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
This portion of the show at 3:32, sponsored by our friends at Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Oh my gosh, there's so much good stuff today. Sue, Phil Holloway is going to join us here in a moment, but there are 2 jail escapees still at large in this manhunt in New Orleans. And one of the dude goes on Instagram and says a bunch of stuff. So Antoine Massey is the guy that has gone on Instagram. Have you heard this audio yet? Okay, so he's making some claims here.
Asking for help from the world, from Meek Mills, Lil Wayne, Young Boy, Donald Trump. I'm asking for these people. I couldn't even get a lawyer. I couldn't even afford a lawyer to prove my innocence while I was in Orleans Parish jail.
Yeah, so he's making some claims about what happened with this maintenance worker, Sterling Williams, who was arrested last week. And he's the guy that was involved in the mistake. And this guy is also accused of threatening to stab Williams, and he sort of addresses that.
The guy who said that I threatened him with a shank, the maintenance guy, how could I threaten you with a shank? If you can't come around me, you're a maintenance. You cannot come on the tills without a deputy being behind you.
All right, well, he may have something there. And then one more thing here.
He said that I broke out. I didn't break out. I was let out.
Again, a little truth to that. Phil Holloway with us, Fox News contributor. Phil, how are you this afternoon?
Man, I'm doing great. Always great to be with you. And it seems like we always have these just crazy criminal justice stories every time we talk. And this one really is something else. I tell you, that guy says a lot, right? In that video that he posted out there, some of it actually I might agree with, specifically like he talks about, the feds need to come in and investigate this jail. He's not wrong about that.
No.
They can do like they recently did in Rikers Island. They've done it here in the Atlanta area in Fulton County, which is where I am. And there's a lot of jails around the country, quite frankly, that are just civil rights abuse factories. But that doesn't mean that you get to just walk out the door. Even if somebody does let you out and you're not supposed to be out, guess what? You just confessed to the crime of escape. And so he's leaving this digital trail behind him, and he will be caught eventually.
What's interesting is, like, in most of these situations, you'd say, look, this guy, it was serious charges, right? He was convicted of second-degree murder for a shooting on Mardi Gras in 2018. He has, domestic abuse charges, et cetera. But when I heard what he said, I'm not trying to go, and be sympathetic on him, but some of what he said actually, to your point, kind of made sense and should be followed up on. Now, two things can be true at the same time. He escaped. All right, let's just be honest here. But he kind of was let out too, right?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, if there's one thing we can agree on, I think maybe the three of us, me, you, and that guy can agree on, is that the Orleans Parish sheriff is frankly just incompetent, because, she failed to do even a basic crime scene investigation at this dysfunctional jail. And the DA had to come in, I think, a week or a week and a half later and try to do one after, of course, the crime scene had been completely contaminated. And so this is the same sheriff that's running this jail. And how many jail employees now have been charged as accessories to this? I've lost count, quite frankly. But many things can be true, but he can be guilty of escape. It can be true that he was let out by some incompetent or basically a criminal jail employee. or he could be lying. You just don't
Yeah.
know. But the bottom line is he's supposed to be in jail. He knows he's supposed to be in jail, and guess what? He's not in jail. So he's guilty of escape. We know that.
I mean, that's pretty bold to be an escapee and everyone in the country's out in the lookout for you, and then you put that up on Instagram. That takes, you know what? That takes cojones, Phil Holloway, doesn't it?
He's not where he is in life because he's the smartest egg in the basket. Okay, so look, you just got to take it for what it's worth.
You also have to wonder, look, we've had situations here with progressives. We just booted out our mayor a couple of months ago, Tashara Jones, thankfully. And I know that you know who Kim Gardner was, our prosecutor, who got booted out a couple of years ago. And then we had Cori Bush. Cori Bush, they did this thing where it was black girl magic when they were all elected at the same time. And I'm not even kidding you. The first thing they did that weekend was they go to the St. Louis Workhouse, the jail downtown. So we have people who are taxpayers who are victims of crime that never, under any of those three that I just mentioned, got much attention at all. And a lot of people got off the hook when Kim Gardner was in that office. So they went to be empathetic toward the prisoners. Now, I think we could probably agree that some jail conditions around the country might not be where they are. And I think we're learning a lot from this. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of thoughts sometimes from these progressives on the actual victims of crime. It's always the criminals, Phil. It's always the criminals.
It's fashionable, Mark. See, that's the thing. It's fashionable. It's trendy. It's the wokey thing to do. But what I guess they just don't understand, or they fail to realize, or maybe they're just too dumb to get it, that the ones that they are catering to, the criminal element, they're not the ones that are going to be putting them into office. It's going to be the people who are concerned about crime in the community. It's the people who are concerned that, their lives and their property are at risk from these criminals who seem to be running amok with no interest in stopping them because of these types of prosecutors. This is part of the whole problem with modern or today's Democrat Party. They can't seem to see the forest for the trees right in front of them. And that tree, of course, is this woke ideology. And this is what's going to be bogging them down for, could be many, many, many election seasons to come if they can't figure it out.
I do feel like we're moving past some of that, because even here in St. Louis, with booting out the mayor, now we had a snowstorm and it was, really, really bad over the winter and people couldn't get out of their streets. So there was a culmination of things with our mayor that led to her, eventual departure from City Hall. But I do think, and this is interesting, just the time that we're in right now. If you go back a month ago, all right, there was a lot of hyperventilating out there in the legacy media about the father of the year from Maryland and all this stuff. And now you kind of look at what's going on. Inflation's kept in check. And, we have other positive things going on. And then maybe the media understands that gangbangers should be booted out of the country and their narrative didn't last. So I do have a little bit of hope that, the actuality of where people's minds are in this country, because a lot of people are just common sense, that we're making progress. But don't tell Tim Walz that, because he's still a clown.
I don't know where you want me to start with that. We could talk about that guy all day. But we see these. We see senators going down to hold hands and sing "Kumbaya" with terrorists after they get deported. It's just that the left just always finds themselves on the wrong side of these issues. It just blows my mind.
What do you know about this guy? And I've only seen limited coverage of this, and I know Fox was covering a little bit. The guy that they're calling the Devil of the Ozarks down in Arkansas.
Yeah. Well, he's got a little law enforcement experience, and I don't know how much that's really helping him, because look, I've got law enforcement experience, but I don't know that I'm going to be well suited to go to ground and live in the wilderness. I'm not like a wilderness survival expert. And, I guess to some degree, maybe he does know a little bit about police tactics, but it's a little bit bewildering that he's not been caught yet. I know that he will be caught, just like they seemingly almost always are. It's just a matter of time. But there's a lot of folks in the media that give him a little too much credit for being, a former sheriff. Just because you maybe once wore a badge doesn't necessarily mean that you're, a wilderness survival expert, and that you can survive on the run without, resources, without money, without access to your network of support indefinitely. Because at some point he's going to have to come up for air, and that's when he's going to get caught.
So I retweeted something from your Twitter feed, Phil Holloway, earlier today where Elon Musk, and you brought it to my attention because I missed the original tweet by Elon. He says, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous Portfield congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." That he's not being shy. I mean, he stood shoulder to shoulder with the president the other day when he said his farewells in the Oval Office. But that's pretty hardcore from Elon Musk right now.
It is, and then right now, the homepage for FoxNews.com, it's got Musk calls spending bill disgusting abomination, even as the White House defends it. And so I think, though, I mean, Musk is not wrong that this does increase the deficit, and it's not what a lot of people thought they were getting when they were supporting this bill. But Stephen Miller, if you pay attention to what he has said and others, he kind of points out that because this is reconciliation versus a regular type bill, there are limits on what they can cut, and that they need to go in later and make those cuts. Now, if you could trust them to do that, then that plan might work. So, I do see both sides of this, but it is fascinating that finally someone with the platform that Musk has is really holding, I think at this point, the Senate's feet to the fire. I think they could cut a lot more from this. I think they could do a better bill, but I still also think that there are limits to what they can do through reconciliation.
So we talked earlier about two things being true at the same time, and I would actually say that this is true here. I just had in this previous segment a guy by the name of Joe Nocera who is over at the Free Press, and he wrote a piece that caught my attention about 10 days ago that was called "Why Doge Failed." And the point that he made, and he kind of did a little backstory here that goes back to 1981, when you had a kind of an examination. Charlie Peters is the guy that he was talking about, who's the editor of the Washington Monthly. He served as John F. Kennedy's West Virginia campaign manager, and then he arrived in Washington to join the Peace Corps, brand new organization. And his title was Director of Evaluation. The job was to look at the Peace Corps location, spend some time, and find out what was working or what wasn't. That sounds a little familiar with Elon. So his point, and the audience just kind of heard him tell this story a few minutes ago, is, Elon Musk didn't understand how government works. This is what's frustrating. I know why they're passing this bill. Everyone's taxes are going to go up. I've been preaching on the radio for 3 decades about the entitlements and the spending, the out of control. If you look at 1981 versus where we are right now, it is absolutely stunning. $569 billion budget in 1980, $6.8 trillion last year. So I give the Senate and the House and the leadership and, even Jason Smith, who's the House Ways and Means chair, I give them a little grace because you just can't snap your finger. I know they tried to do it on USAID. This is tough. And, all these people are entrenched. They call it the swamp for a reason, don't they, Phil?
Yeah, well, it is. And this bill, it could be improved on there. I think you can, I think you could get it to a point where it sort of raises the deficit less than it does now, which is a terrible way of looking at things. But I don't know that we can trust these people. And
No.
I'm talking about all people in Congress, right? Because they all have their own constituencies and their own kingdoms, and then they sit atop their own little kingdom, and they've got to try to bring home the bacon for that kingdom, every one of them. And so this is just baked into the pie that is Washington. It's just sort of how it works. And that's what's so frustrating. And ironically, that's, I think, part of what at least swept Donald Trump back into the White House is this. A lot of people are just tired of business as usual. And then guess what? Even with Elon Musk and all those folks, we're getting business as usual. And it's very frustrating. I can certainly see it.
I'm going to ask the audience, we do a little thing here called Telephone Tuesday. I don't very much take calls that often, but we do on Tuesday afternoons. And one of the questions is going to be, did Doge fail? And obviously, if you're judging by what Elon said today, maybe you would think so. But I do think it's more complicated than that. And I think the ultimate judgment will be, and I'm with you, I don't trust them, will be when and if they do something more about it. But here's what I keep preaching, and they're not going to do anything about this. You cannot touch these numbers unless you address Social Security and Medicare. And nobody, well, Trump's already ruled it out, right? He's not going to touch it. Nobody has the intestinal fortitude to be honest with the American people because they're too worried about their own asses.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about, well, yeah, I will vote this way only if it doesn't hurt me politically. That's
right.
That's how they all operate. And like I say, if they're not seen as being able to bring the bacon back home to their district, this particular spending project or that spending project, and that's what gets them reelected. They can tell their people in their congressional district, look, I brought federal money here. We use taxpayers' money from Arkansas to fund this project over here in Savannah, Georgia, or whatever the case may be. And so it's really all about how much money Congress members can bring back to their district. Yep. And as long as that's the way it operates, we're going to keep getting business as usual.
Phil Holloway, awesome to hook up with you again. It's been a little bit too long, but I'm glad to have you back. Thank you so much, Phil.
Always happy to be with you guys.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Accident westbound 70 past 141 has been moved to the right shoulder. Then there was an accident westbound 70 past 170, and that one is blocking the right lane. In fact, the right shoulder is blocked as well. And now we've got an accident westbound 6440 approaching Hampton. That one is in the left lane. They've got the left shoulder blocked. And emergency vehicles northbound 55 at Merrimack Bottom Road. Watch for those on the right side. Now, if you're headed into Illinois, there's some volume downtown, but at this hour, it's only moderate. And southbound 270, moderate volume in pockets from Page down through Gravel. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
We're at the point where a lot of men know about TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. So you have options there, right? You can go multiple options with locations. I'm going to guide you into Game Day Men's Health because I think it's a better option, and it's a very professional option. It's a world-class option. It's comfortable, and your first visit is free. So you can make an appointment, and I would recommend Matt Lawrence and his team in Chesterfield. Make an appointment. They're going to offer you a free testosterone and PSA test, no matter what your situation is. Maybe you need TRT. Maybe you're looking for vitamin therapy or peptide therapy, or they have ED treatments that address the root causes. Very unique and provide long-term solutions outside of a pill. They can help you with all these things. And when you go in for the first time, it's a free test. They'll come back in 20 minutes and say, all right, here is the game plan. This is what we're looking at right now. You will not feel rushed. They will answer your questions. It's going to be an awesome experience. So get back in the game at Game Day Men's Health. They have 3 locations: O'Fallon, Missouri; Glen Carbon, Illinois; Chesterfield, Missouri. GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
I'm Ultima Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Every time one of my children started driving, it was terrifying. Thousands of accidents happen across the country. We see it every day. If you've been injured in a car accident, call us.
Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
You've saved enough money to retire. Well, you can find out how you can make your money go a lot further in retirement in a 3-hour adult education class called Retirement Planning 101. Hey, it's Sue Thomas, and this is a one-night class. It's taught by a fiduciary advisor from Financial and Tax Architects. They have decades of financial planning experience, and they hold these at colleges and libraries throughout St. Louis. You will learn about reducing your taxes, maximizing your Social Security income, paying for health care, all of it. And there's no cost. Just bring 3 canned goods for St. Louis Crisis Nursery. Now, there are a handful of openings for the classes this month and next. Just register by calling 314-947-2012. 314-947-2012. It's the Sue Thomas number, 314-947-2012.
Joint pain does not always require joint replacement surgery. Bluetail Medical Group can see if your joints can be saved without expensive and risky surgery that keeps you off your feet for weeks. Dr. Bay's Crane and Wolf can help your joints regrow soft tissue, improve flexibility, and reduce pain. Our proven results can be dramatic and long-lasting. Patients include athletes, veterans, or anyone with age-related wear and tear. Let Bluetail Medical Group see if regenerative treatments can help you. Schedule an appointment at 636-778-2900 and visit them at bluetailmedicalgroup.com.
The Mark Cox Morning Show.
Wednesday, it's official. The DOJ is investigating Biden's use of the auto pen. We'll talk to Genevieve Wood from Heritage at 7:20.
The Mark Cox Morning Show. Weekdays from 5 to 9. Right here on 97.1 FM Talk.
I got to tell you something about the bumper piece here, this music. It's by a dude or a band named Somber, SOMBR, and it's one of my favorite songs right now. It's called Undressed. But Sue, here's the thing that's annoying to me. And this happens with songs. The opening beats of that song are, exactly the same as a song that I really like, and I can't remember what that song is. It's not what you think, because some people have tried to guess. It's a song that
Something
I'm guessing.
for the People. What's that band?
Foster the People?
Foster the People.
Yeah,
I think it sounds like that.
It's not that. Well, look, beats are similar, and it may be something along those lines. But the song that I'm thinking of is very specific. It's an alternative act from just a few years ago. And I know I've heard it a bunch of times, and I've even tried to match up the lyrics anyway. It's just one of those things that's kind of driving me crazy.
Gautier? Is it the Gautier song that sounds like that?
A little bit, yes. But that's not the song.
That's not it either.
But it does sound like that.
Yeah.
You're right. And again, the beats are often, the chords are similar, but it's a song. I'm going to figure it out.
Okay.
One of these days I'll figure it out, and then I'll tell you, and I'll match it up, and then you'll say, no, it doesn't sound anything like that. You put this next story sort of on my radar. I had not heard about this, and I'm not familiar with the Joe Fosse sausage, and can't even say it. Sausage. I can't even say it.
Okay, sausage
and sandwich factory. Thank you very much. What the hell is wrong with me? He was stabbed at the deli last Wednesday, according to the building manager. Tom Cole, who's the founder, was attacked on May 28th by a man who entered the restaurant, walked behind the counter, and stabbed him in the throat and in the chest.
It's unbelievable.
Well, not only that, but it was caught on surveillance tape. So
gosh.
this is all on video, and let's hope, because you know what happens, and I can't help myself, someone will do a freedom of information request, and they'll get this video, and then it'll go viral out there because they're trying to get clips, and then it'll be national news. But how awful is that?
Yeah.
The person who did this is named Terrence Bise, 44 years old. So I don't know if it's Bise or Bissy, who is listed as homeless in city records, later charged with first-degree assault, armed criminal action, and resisting arrest. One of the things that I shared with you, when you showed me this story, it reminded me of a post that I saw last week from the Old Rock House, which is downtown. It's a great music venue for people who aren't familiar, on Broadway, just down from, not too far from, Busch Stadium and that area down there. Someone had gone through, and their post about this, I think it was on Instagram, was very empathetic. I would argue a lot more empathetic than I would ever be. But they said someone, and maybe I should be a little bit more empathetic because I have my own mental crisis that I've dealt with here in the last few weeks. But someone who was in mental crisis literally smashed out every damn window that they had. I mean, there was just all broken windows. So this is, and I've had to talk to my daughter even about this because she's been to Las Vegas. You see this level of mental illness. I've seen it more in Vegas on the Strip. You walk around the Strip.
Weather's better.
Well, maybe that's it. But you have people, look, there's homeless people and there's mentally ill homeless people. And then you have a different category altogether. I've walked by people, and I've seen this, even at the corner, not too far from where we are right now, across from Stiefel, where they're just completely yelling to nobody that's there, having full-on conversations with people and yelling and yelling. It looks dangerous. And in this particular case, it was dangerous. Now, it's kind of a miracle that the dude survived, I think, and he's being treated right now.
It is.
All right, we're going to break for this hour. When we come back, one thing I'm going to talk about is, and I think you're going to appreciate this, Sue, I don't even know myself anymore. There's a couple of habits, you're going to be proud of me on one of them, that have changed. I'll give you a little bit of a puppy update.
Oh, good.
We were talking about the movie Fletch last week. Remember that?
Love it.
I watched Fletch over the weekend, as promised. There was an amazing catch. I would say Arenado's catch was better a week ago, but the Detroit Tigers with Flaherty on the mound, there was this real cool catch, and we'll paint the picture of that. And also we'll have a Tuesday edition of Sue's News. And of course, it's Telephone Tuesday. So if you didn't hear the show earlier, all the buzz is about Elon Musk and me not being able to pronounce the word that Sue just had to share with me.
Sausage.
But we are going to take some, maybe I'm just going to have a hotkey that says that word.
That's fine.
I'm afraid to even try it again. I don't even know why that was so tough for me, but now it's in my head. But we are going to take some phone calls in the next hour on Elon's tweet. And we'll get to Nick Schroer, state senator, talking about the special session coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Hang in there.
traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads, accident westbound 6440 approaching Hampton. Watch for that one. It is blocking the two left lanes. Oh, but it looks like they're about to pull out now. So it may look better here. We did have some slow-moving traffic behind that. It should get better. Southbound 270, slow pockets, Page, down through Gravois. Southbound Interbelt traffic a little bit slow, headed down towards 64. Westbound 70, slowing at Jennings Station Road and at 141, where we had an earlier accident. Slowing again at Highway A through Wentzville. Southbound 55 is slowing. Now, that, of course, is closer to Bates. And northbound 61 is pretty slow on either side of Highway P. Now, this is all due to road work out there. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Sausage.
What is happening?
I'm telling you what, it's my brain. I can't help you right now this afternoon. I can't say that word. I don't know. We'll talk about it more in the next hour. I can say Michael's Flooring Outlet, though. IGotFloored.com. You can step into summer now. We're almost there at summer, where if you want 3 free samples, use the code on the website, 3 free. Better yet, go into one of the 3 locations. If you are thinking about a flooring project, we had a great one in my home last year, and it was awesome. And the experience with Mike and the team was awesome. They have 3 great locations in Old Town St. Peters and in West County on Olive and Darden Prairie. If you need flooring, this is absolutely the place to go. You have professionals, you have a team that's been at this for literally decades, and you have amazing products, whether it's hard flooring products or soft flooring, Mohawk, silky soft products. You can do it, and you can go into the store and get great service. Read some of the reviews. Go online today. Michael's Flooring Outlet, IGotFloored.com. 3 locations are open every day except for Sunday.
You know, I always said for years to save my number in your phone so you don't forget. And here's why. Today, I was calling the office. So I mentioned the office number. Probably have said it, not to exaggerate, over 1,000 times. I called the office today and I dialed the wrong number. When it connected, it said number you call not in order, not in use, whatever they say that. Now I am freaking out. I'm a very small business owner, and that's my lifeline. Very long story to try to make it shorter. And if Andrew can do this, I'm producing it. That's why I say save the number in your phone. Save it under Bart. That's with a B. You can save it under air conditioning. That's with an A. Or whatever helps you remember. Because if your memory is like mine, it's easy to forget. 314-293-2600. It's Bart with a B.
While you start to think spring, that might mean a move is in your future. But the question is, when is the right time to buy? Well, I go to my friend Stewie at Stewart's American Mortgage to ask that question. Stewie, how do buyers beat the competition when they're looking to buy a new home?
All right, Annie, we're going to give you 3 big bullets. Number 1, get the bagel loan. No closing costs. If you don't have to pay those closing costs, add it to the bid. You'll beat all the other offers. Number 2, tell the seller you're going to close in 10 days. 10 days, most lenders take 30 days just to get the loan approved. He's going to take your offer over everybody else's right away. Number 3, we give you the power of the pre-approval in your hands. You can access our portal anytime you want and generate your own pre-approval letter. Don't wait for the lender. You can make it happen yourself.
Well, the smart move starts by calling or texting my friend Stewie at 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. He just gave you those 3 tips to smart buying to beat the competition. Google the bagel loan for more information. NMLS number 226715.
KFTK FM Florissant.
An Odyssey station.
The gloves come off. Lisa Brady, Fox News. Democrats sounding the alarm over the House-passed bill for much of the Trump agenda that's now under Senate consideration.
Hospitals will close. Nursing homes will shut down. And yes, people will die.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on Medicaid cuts. The president says only waste, fraud, or abuse will be cut from Medicaid. But some Republicans are pushing for more cuts, concerned about the deficit. Elon Musk calling the current bill a pork-filled abomination. House Speaker Mike Johnson.
I've said this many times. I'll be saying it until we get this thing over the line. This is the most amount of money that any government has ever saved
on planet Earth in a piece of legislation.
Both he and the White House say Congressional Budget Office estimates are wrong. Federal officials offering reassurance about Social Security benefits for older student loan borrowers.
Nearly 500,000 Americans 62 years or older with student loans are in default, according to a federal agency. But the Department of Education says Social Security payments will not be garnished for those borrowers. The spokesperson for the department says the Trump administration is committed to protecting Social Security recipients who oftentimes rely on a fixed income. The administration restarted student loan collections last month following a years-long pause put in place during the COVID pandemic.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. The government has said wages and tax refunds could be garnished for those in default. 2 Chinese nationals are accused of smuggling a biological pathogen into the U.S. The FBI says a dangerous fungus considered a potential agro-terrorism weapon was transported through the Detroit Metropolitan Airport by a suspect who wanted to research it at the University of Michigan laboratory where his girlfriend worked. Federal prosecutors say both now face charges of conspiracy, smuggling, false statements, and visa fraud. America is listening to Fox News.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Sometimes an identity threat is a ring of professional hackers. And sometimes it's an overworked accountant who forgot to encrypt their connection while sending bank details.
I need a coffee.
And you need LifeLock because your info is in endless places. It only takes one mistake to expose you to identity theft. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Still a little bit of an early summer feel out there, but there is a front on the way. Partly sunny skies, chance of a couple of spot showers. High temperatures in the 80s, but the actual high may just touch 90 degrees. Tonight, lots of clouds, breezy, a couple of showers, a few rumbles, 72. Wednesday, periods of showers, a couple of thunderstorms, breezy and near 80. That continues Thursday and Friday. This is 97.1 FM Talk, Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. Follow Mark on Twitter at Mark Reardon KFTK and Instagram at Mark Talk. You're listening to the Mark Reardon Show.
Fred, I think I freaked Sue out here in the last segment because I couldn't pronounce a word.
It did freak me out.
It was weird. I'm not saying it. I'm not going to say the word. Sue can say the word. Yeah, it was a pretty easy word. The only explanation I could have if you were freaked out, and I've been honest about this, right? I came back from Greece and I got just whacked with this anxiety that I hadn't had in 12 years, 2013, 2014. So a little bit more than 10 years. And, it was really hard for a while. And I'm not quite at 100%. And my brain does not function right now 100%. So there are things that are a little confusing to me. I'm just being honest with you because, you guys have been so great at lifting me through this. But it was, the extent that I got to here a couple of weeks ago when I had to take a couple of days off, it was really rough. Like I was paralyzed. And I talk about this stuff because other people go through this. When I say I was paralyzed, I couldn't get off the couch, right?
Yeah.
It did not feel safe for me to drive my car. And where I've done this job, I've done radio for my entire life. And a lot of this comes naturally, and I run my own board. I've mentioned that before. But when I'm kind of keeping track of a lot of things at once right now, plus I'm dumb enough to get a puppy, my brain is just not quite there. So that doesn't happen. When have you last heard me not be able to pronounce a word?
Well, a long time, maybe never. But here's what, but I just thought it was something like, and this is the first thing that comes to my thought. My friend Mark Cox and I, when we were on Channel 4 on that morning show, he was unable to say the phrase, orbit the Earth.
Yeah, I'm not trying that.
And you see what I'm saying?
Well,
so there are just some things that get caught in your head, regardless of who you are.
Yesterday, I had two of those words.
See, yes.
Here, when I was telling the story of being in Florida, I could not say golf cart. It came out
Right.
golf course.
Right.
And
Yes.
I just couldn't do it. And then I
Exactly.
had, for a news story, I had to say exacerbate.
Ooh.
And it took me like 7 tries to get exacerbate
So
out.
see, I
Well-
don't think it's that,
As a professional broadcaster, when I'm in the studio doing commercials, it happens all the time. I'm just going to tell you, and you have to cut, you have to
Yes.
cut. It does not often happen when I'm live on the radio. So while it may have freaked you out and the audience, it freaks me out too. But I can't do anything more than to just be honest
Well,
about where I am
I get
with
it.
my life right now.
I just
and
wrote it off.
No, I know, but I mean, it was weird to me too. I'm just telling you. And I was going to tell you, like, I don't even know myself anymore. You want to hear a couple of things that are weird?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
So just again, being honest here, with medication has been altered just a little bit in an effort to get me back to 100%. And one of the things that I really have trouble with is sleep. But I mean, I have backed off the Diet Coke to a level that I didn't think was possible. Now, you know how much I drank. I would
Oh
always
my
nurse one.
gosh,
We're
yes.
talking, I might have been conservative saying 6 or 7 a day. I probably had 6 or 7 by the time of the show. And I often wouldn't drink it in the night. But if we're being honest, probably made 8 a day, right?
Oh
8
my
a day
gosh,
of cans.
Mark.
So I didn't do it in Greece because they have Coca-Cola Light and I hate that stuff. It's not the same. It's like Coke Zero. People like it, but I don't like it. I like the tin can taste of the Diet Coke, right? So I came back, I got whacked with the anxiety. When I'm sick, when I'm not feeling well, I don't have a craving for those things. It's always like if I get hit with a virus, whether it's COVID or anything else, I just don't. That's kind of my gauge of when I feel better, when I can have the Diet Coke. Right or wrong, I'm just telling you
Yeah,
that's the way
right.
it is. But because I have tried to take care of myself a little bit more with some of the physical things, and because of the medication, I'm not sure what's happening with the aspartame. And I'm going to give you TMI here in a second too. I've backed off. So I
Mhm.
had
That's
2
good.
this morning. That's all I'll have, right? I had like 2 yesterday. That's it. But I also have been drinking something else. And this is
Oh.
where we get it. No, listen,
Okay,
just hear me out.
Okay.
The it's embarrassing, but I embarrass myself on a regular basis. So because of the medication adjustments, I'm drinking prune juice right now.
Hey, that's not bad.
I've never had it in my life. Now you understand why I have to have it. I
I think so.
So I'm like downing Fred's face right now.
I
It was just
know.
epic. It
Yeah.
really was. It was so funny.
That's for 2 reasons.
It's not as bad. It's not as bad. Good point. It's not as bad as I thought. I've never had it in my life.
It's
So I
good.
buy these little cans and I bought pineapple juice too. And I'm like, yesterday morning, I'm like, okay, let's see if I do it. I'm like, oh,
It's just a plum.
okay. I said, it's not that bad. Yeah.
It's
So
a plum that's sweeter.
exactly. Well, not really.
I
It-
can
the-
remember
the-
my grandma telling me sipping some of that.
I liked plums and I haven't had one in a long
Yeah.
time, but
That's what you're doing.
okay.
You're having a liquid
Let's just
plum.
roll with that.
Yes.
My life is crazy right now because I have a puppy. I was dumb enough to do that, but he's doing really well. And
So
he's
cute,
only
Mark.
11 weeks old. I put something on Twitter today about Max. You can check him out. The other thing is, I just want to comment on this because back in the 80s when my parents lived here, my sister, came in to take care of my daughter when we were in Greece. And both of my sisters loved the pasta house back in the day, and they loved the salad at the pasta house. And Kim Tucci, one of the founders, was a dear friend. I'm sure you knew Kim. Did you know him?
He's very nice. I didn't really
He
know
passed
him.
away several years ago, but Kim was amazing. And I used to maybe go to the pasta house occasionally, but I hadn't been there in a long time, right? So now that I'm going home in a different way because Hillsborough Road is closed, I have to go back through Gravois to get to where I live, which is near Paradise Valley Golf Course. I pass by every single day, multiple times a day, a pasta house. And when my sister came in, she took my daughter to the pasta house. So yesterday when we're, trying to gauge the day with the puppy and everything, and what are we going to have for dinner? And my wife's out of town, so I'm juggling. She says, well, what about the pasta house? And I said, that's a good idea. So I left here last night and I called in an order and I picked it up. And by the way, it was great. No criticism. And there was a girl that was handling the order that was new, and they were kind of coaching her through it and everything. And she did great. But then I got the bill and I'm thinking, man, that's not the price that I remember at the pasta house. And I'm not criticizing the restaurant in any way, shape, or form.
No, food is up.
It's a reflection on where we are with prices. So it was a little jarring because I still have it in my head. This happened recently with Chinese food a couple of weeks ago. Usually it's my wife because I'm getting off and Becky picks up the food. And there's a little place that we go to that's called Panda. It's not Panda Express. It's different. It's
a
in
different
Fenton.
Panda.
Yeah, it's a different Panda, right? So she does the ordering all the time. And I suppose I don't look at the bill. So I go in there and all I did was like shrimp fried rice and wonton soup. It's like $20. Now,
Yeah.
back in the day, and maybe back in the day was like 2016, that was like $7
Well,
or
this is
something
part
like
of
that.
the problem is we're old enough now that you remember how much Pasta House Company used to be. If you would have bought it somewhere else, you'd be like, oh, okay, it's a normal dinner.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's the throwback knowledge.
I think it's part of it, but I also think if you go, and I have this experience all the time because I go and I'm not ashamed to say, and many people probably, even people listening, would never even step into a Walmart, right? Well, I go to the High Ridge Walmart because I'm so cheap. And now, by the way, you know what the biggest raise I got in my life? I'm not drinking Diet Coke. Now I have more cash in my
Thank
pocket.
you. Oh,
Okay?
so where's the bell?
But when I go to, where is the bell, by the way?
Thanks,
Give
Fred.
that back to Sue.
Thank you.
When I go to Walmart, I know I'm the person who does the shopping in the house, right? Becky does the picking up of the fast food restaurant, but I'm the person who does the shopping 90% of the time. And if she does it on Instacart. So I see the prices. And when I have a cart full of things that aren't very full, and you look at the price,
Oh,
I'm
it's
like,
shocking.
It is shocking. And that's not just nostalgia.
No.
That's the last 5 or 6 years.
I
And
agree.
it's just kind of jarring when you think about it. So I don't know. I just wanted to reflect on that just for a minute. And by the way, on the puppy front, Fred, you'll like this. I'm trying to keep this little guy as worn out as possible so I can get some sleep. And I'm probably doing damage to my mental and physical health because I'm not getting as much sleep. And this was a decision that we made with the timing that maybe could be questioned because of, my dog just passed away, but it is what it is. And we're giving this puppy a good home. But tonight I'm going to producer emeritus's Dave Klein's home. He's got 4 boys and he lives, well, technically, he's about 7 minutes away. If the road wasn't closed, it's going to be about 15 to 18 minutes away. But I'm going to take Max out tonight and visit with Dave Klein. And one thing that we forgot to tell you, I think it was a week ago today, George Gray was here doing The Price is Wrong. It was, in my opinion, one of the best Prices Wrongs that we've ever had. And part of that is due to Fred because Fred writes the no case, and the no case was really, really funny.
Oh, good.
Sometimes people don't remember that. But the items for The Price is Wrong were legendary. And you will hear this version of The Price is Wrong on the 4th of July. I can almost guarantee you because that'll be a holiday and we'll do a best of show.
Should I ask who won?
Did I win last week?
I think you did.
I think I did. We kind of got thrown off balance because, there was an odd number and then we ran out of a little time. George was in really rare form. He really was. I don't know if it was because he knew some of his friends were watching from afar.
Yeah.
I think even someone from the East Coast. And not that he doesn't dial it up and that he doesn't perform every single time, but he was just
good.
Amazing last week. All right, we got Sue's News for a Tuesday coming up, and then Telephone Tuesday. We'll take some calls.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads, we've got volume out there. Westbound 70, a little bit slow at Jennings Station Road, past the airport, and at 141. Also slow out at Highway A. Now, 6440, they cleared an accident that was really close to Hampton. Look for slow-moving traffic back through Kings Highway. Moderate volume through Chesterfield Valley, and then Highway N through 70. Now, southbound 270 is pretty slow, and that is Page down through Manchester, maybe even Doherty Ferry. Southbound 55 slow, headed down toward Bates. And we've got moderate volume now in both directions on the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, I have praised Zero Res carpet cleaning for a long time, and a lot of it is because of puppy accidents and, things that we don't really need to discuss here on the radio, but they have saved my carpets so often. And we have less carpeting right now. We have a little bit more hard flooring thanks to, as I cross-pollinate here, Michael's Flooring Outlet. But if you need your carpets cleaned, and let's just be honest, vacuuming is not enough. It's not going to do the job. You need to have the carpets professionally cleaned, and you have to have them cleaned the right way, because I made the mistake back in the day where more than 10 years ago, Zero has been in this market now 10 or 11 years. I'd go to the big box store, there'd be an accident, or I'd think I could clean the carpets on my own. and it just didn't do the job. So they have a great sale right now. If you mention my name or 97.1 FM Talk, 3 rooms starting at $129. You do have some options if you have pet accidents for biotreatments, etc. $75 off the air duct cleaning package. That's really important to do because all that gunk, we had it done last August. They pull up into the driveway with a vehicle that looks space age, and it's really cool. And then they suck all that stuff out of the ductwork. And if it's still in there, you can do the carpets, but then the carpets are kind of acting like an air filter. So take advantage. $75 off that package. The team is amazing. Great customer service. The legendary 30-day gotta love it guarantee. Check them out today. 314-474-2020 or ZeroResSTL.com. You spell it backward or forward, it spells the same. Zero-Res.
This is attorney Todd Nissenholtz of Kaufman Townsley. When you're the victim of a serious car accident, not choosing the best lawyer will cost you. It costs you time, it costs you money, settling too quickly with the insurance company. But here's the good news. Since you don't pay unless we win, you can afford the very best, and that's Kaufman Townsley. Call 314-500-5000 for a no-charge conversation. It costs you nothing to call, but may cost you everything if you don't. Call 314-500-5000.
Hi, my name is Christina Straight, the owner of Straight Realty, and I'm asking you, what do you want in a realtor? Do you want experience? I've been a broker for over 21 years. Do you want to know how much I've sold? I've sold over $500 million, yes, $1 billion with a B, in sales. Do you want value? I now list properties for only 2%. So if you're looking for all these things and want the best, then call me 314-441-4444. Why pay more than 2? You can also listen to my podcast on my website, straightrealty.com.
Commissions are not regulated and unnegotiable. Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri.
Cash for Clunkers is back. Overhead Door Company of St. Louis is paying cash for your clunkers now. They'll Holloway your old garage door and give you instant credit towards a new insulated door. $200 for the first garage door and $100 for each additional door. Cash in your old entry door too. It's Cash for Clunkers now at Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. Convenient, free, in-home estimates. Schedule online at overheaddoorsstlouis.com or call 314-781-5200.
You know your customers. Ralph likes his coffee black on Fridays, but Mondays he takes a little cream. Jennifer comes in every 3 years when her lease is up to get the newer and better model. And for some reason, pepperoni pizza sells like crazy on Friday nights. Who knew? At Odyssey, we have the expertise to get your media plan done right. With ads like you're hearing right now, to targeted social media campaigns, search engine optimization, and location-based advertising. Advertise with Odyssey and help us grow your business. Visit ads.odyssey.com.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
I leave my house at 3 o'clock with 200 texts.
And we have Sue's News here in a moment. Fred mentioned he's going to see Mission Impossible tonight. I did watch I had never seen the movie before this one, shockingly. And I watched that when it was the weekend before you left. And I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah,
so are you
great,
going to see it on the big screen tonight on the IMAX or not?
I don't know if it's the IMAX. It's at Ronnie's. And, it's the $5 Tuesday nights. I guess it's still $5.
I'd be shocked if it is.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong.
But still,
maybe.
you get a better deal, but that's not bad. So one thing I was going to mention movie-wise, because last week, Fred, we talked about, I can't even remember why we talked about Fletch. Why did we talk about Fletch?
It came up with Paul Hall, but I can't remember why. Good movies that are old that we should rewatch and see if they're still good.
There might have been an anniversary involved. So I watched it over the weekend. I liked it. I didn't love it as much.
Fair.
It wasn't like, but I love Chevy Chase. The storyline, it was okay, but it was funny to me because some of these movies I've watched from the 70s and 80s, and I love a lot of those movies. I went on this tear a couple of summers ago and into last summer. I really thought they've held up. Fletch, Chevy Chase holds up, but I don't know if the movie overall
That's fair.
held up, but there it is. And I do want to watch that Black Bag movie that you mentioned yesterday.
Yeah, I like
That's
it.
like next on my list. I am watching Ocean's 11 because we also mentioned that.
Oh yeah.
But I've watched the first 20 minutes of it probably 3 times because I keep falling asleep. So I have to go back and
that's not a good
that's where
sign.
Matt Damon. Well, I'm trying to fall asleep. I'm trying to watch something. And
That's
then
a
kind of
hard
fall
one
asleep.
to lose.
It is.
You got to really pay attention.
You do. And I'm finding that out the hard way. Let's do this here.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
I watched Seems Like Old Times last year with Chevy Chase and Goldie Hawn and Charles Grodin.
Oh, I love Charles Grodin.
Oh, my gosh. I totally enjoyed it. Is it holding up? Probably not.
But still,
I
it's
enjoyed
enjoyable.
it. I loved it.
Well, don't get me wrong. I still enjoyed Fletch.
Yes.
I just didn't say it was one of those, oh, you got to see Fletch again or recommend it to people who have never seen it. I would probably hold back on that. But for nostalgia purposes.
Oh, I get that. Okay, today is National Egg Day, National Repeat Day, and National Chocolate Macaroon Day. Okay. And on this day in history, 225 years ago, I kind of love this story. In 1800, President John Adams decided, okay, you know what? It's time to move to Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, the White House wasn't finished, so he moved into a room above a tavern. That's how life was then.
You gotta love that.
Sorry, it's not finished. There's a room above this tavern. Okay, the president will just stay there.
But I want to know if, it gets to about 11 at night, he's signed a few bills or something like that. He's got Elon Musk in the room, Elon Musk Jr. And does he go down to the tavern and hang out and actually visit? Because at that time, you probably could do something like that.
Well, you probably could. And on this day in history, we may have done this just for the sound. 37 years ago today, in 1988, Tom Hanks' comedy Big was released.
3 years. Me too. Every day after school.
Okay, now this was a movie that I rewatched 2 years ago, and I loved it as much as I loved it the first time. It completely held up, and I would highly recommend it. So there you go.
Okay. The only thing a little about this movie was the love story part. If he's really 13 or whatever, that was a little
but
odd.
that's part of the gimmick.
But it is
right?
part of the gimmick.
Yeah.
I'm just
you have
saying.
to roll with that a little bit.
And on this day in history, 21 years ago, and Ethan sent me this, it's great. In 2004, Yadier Molina made his Major League Baseball debut with the Cardinals. Now, this was a game against the Pirates in Pittsburgh, and he batted seventh, went 2 for 4 with a run score, and Mike Shannon had the call.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
And Oliver Perez delivers. Swing and a line drive over the shortstop's head and a base hit. I mean, the kid really teed off on that.
The kid.
His first big league hit. A one-out single here in the 5th inning, and they'll throw that baseball out of play. And a souvenir to go into the Molina trophy case. His first big league hit. He only has 4,000 plus to go.
There you go.
How
It's
about
good to hear
that?
Mike Shannon. Let me just toss this in as an audible because there was an amazing catch in the Detroit Tigers game last night.
2-2. Palacios was off balance on a curveball. It's a pop-up third base side. It's a long rod. Dingler tips it. Oh, no, come on. Zach McKinstry hauls it in. Wow.
So one of the
What
guys,
happened?
it's hard to understand, but one of the guys was about to catch it, right? And it fell
was a
out of
foul
his
ball.
glove. Oh, it was a foul ball.
Okay.
It falls basically out of his glove or he tips it, and then the other dude grabs it. Did he grab it barehanded? I can't remember.
I don't
Or in
know.
his
I
glove.
was trying to see that. I think it might have been the glove,
It
but
was
it
a
was
great-
a late
Wow.
grab.
It was a
pretty
happenstance
amazing.
thing that was lucky. It was not nearly as good as Arenado's from, about a
Right.
week and a half ago at that game that I went to on that Sunday. But it was pretty amazing to see. It was just lucky,
I
actually.
liked the expression from the players because they were amazed that they caught it as well. They were just laughing
Oh, yeah.
after it
Oh,
happened.
that's
Because it was
awesome.
luck.
Yeah, well. And in tennis, Djokovic has made it to the French Open quarterfinals for the 19th time, which is a record. And
See, that bores me.
does it?
It does.
Okay.
I'm just being honest. I love watching tennis, but that bores me.
What?
I'd
That
like
he's
to see new.
19th? The
Yeah,
what?
I don't want to see him anymore.
Oh, interesting.
I don't.
You're done.
I'm done. Right.
Well, Coco Gauff has made it for the 5th straight year, and she's 21 now. She's number 2 in the world. She plays tomorrow at 4 a.m. our time. If you want to get up and watch, they put on the late because it's it's in Paris.
You'll be up, Sue.
Yeah, I will. I thought I'd try to turn that on. I mean, if they could play for an hour before I'm there.
I would guess, maybe I'm wrong about this, but wouldn't that be, I think you can stream some of this on Peacock or one of the
Oh, I'm
streaming
sure you
networks.
could do it
Right.
afterward, but it's nothing like live.
So 5 times by the age of 20.
Not too shabby at
No,
21.
And by the way, she
Wow.
she had lost, I think she lost at Indian Wells earlier this year, which is kind of one of the prep races, if you will, in tennis. So she's had ups and downs this year.
Yeah, she has. So good for her. Okay, there's a story out about the countries with the highest life expectancy. This was on visualcapitalist.com. Okay, first of all, let me say this. The U.S. doesn't even make the top 25. This is part of why RFK Jr. is in really trying to clean things up, because we have all kinds of terrible additives and fake food. But countries where they don't do that as much, of course, are longer lived. Okay, number 5, South Korea, 5th highest life expectancy. And this is the average of men and women, because women do tend to live longer. South Korea, 84.4. Japan, the highest life expectancy average is 84.8. Hong Kong, 85.6. San Marino has an average life expectancy of 85.5. Now, I had to look this up. This is a small country surrounded by Italy.
Okay.
Yeah. And number 1 is Monaco. I'll move to Monaco. I got no problem with that. Average life expectancy there is 86 and a half years old.
So, when I went to Spain a couple of years ago, I got to reunite with the little girl. I stayed with these 2 doctors, and this little girl, Anna, who is now a dentist, and she's like almost my wife's age, I think. Her dad turned 90 years old today. And I'll tell you what, when I saw the picture on Facebook, because we're Facebook friends, I just went right back to 1983 when I was there. He looks exactly the same. I mean, I can see it. Obviously, he's a little older, but that's kind of crazy. I don't know. I've said this before. Do you want to live that long?
Sure.
Okay. Good.
Sure. I'll go with you.
I don't know if I can
Fred?
handle it.
Oh,
Will I
yeah.
see you
Oh, yeah.
there?
I'll take every year I can.
Okay, we'll go to estate sales. And there was this crazy story. Police in New Jersey rescued a 2-year-old who climbed onto a luggage belt at Newark Airport. It happened last week at the check-in desk. Mom was distracted talking to a JetBlue agent. Kid went down a chute at the end of the belt. I've always wondered about, does this happen? But 2 police officers
crowd not happy about that. Yeah.
2 police officers were walking by, jump into action. One of them was able to grab the kid right before he went through an X-ray machine. Oh my gosh.
And the family still made their flight on time.
How about that?
Now,
thanks, Fred. I didn't know that.
I would, I don't know the whole story here. I haven't seen the video, but if you're not keeping track of a 2-year-old just a little bit better than that, I'd say you have some problems, wouldn't you?
I don't know, man. Could he dive down it? I don't know what happened. But yeah, you probably should. And finally, in Sue's news. Now, Fred, you're going to see Mission Impossible tonight.
Yes.
Here is a little random fact for you. The Mission Impossible TV series from the 1960s invented the term self-destruct with their famous mission instructions that would, quote, self-destruct in 5 seconds. It was invented by that TV show.
I love that.
In the 1960s. And that's it for Sue's news.
Thank you, Sue. We have Telephone Tuesday. We haven't done this in a couple of weeks because we had George last week. But if you'd like to jump on in here, look, if you haven't heard about Elon's tweet about Doge, that's one thing you can comment on, but we will not limit it to that. If you'd like to jump in on Telephone Tuesday, Ethan's going to take some calls. He'll do it here in the next few minutes. 314-241-9797. 314-241-9797. Have you seen Mission Impossible? What's Fred going to think tonight? Jumping in on Telephone Tuesday. It's coming up next.
But I like myself like this. I like myself like this.
I'm Chad Robinson with Your Money Now. Meta has signed a 20-year agreement to buy nuclear power from Constellation Energy. Starting in June of 2027, Meta says they'll buy roughly 1.1 gigawatts of energy from Constellation's Clinton Clean Energy Center in Illinois, which is the entire output from that site's one nuclear reactor. Dollar General shares surged by 15% today after the discount retailer raised its full-year forecast after beating first-quarter expectations for both earnings and revenue. Their CEO said the company is working to reduce its exposure to China and minimize price increases for its customers, adding that the retailer is attracting more middle and upper-income customers that are seeking value. On Wall Street, stocks finished higher today with the 3 major averages gaining anywhere from 0.5 to 0.8%. Crude oil futures for July are above $63 a barrel. That's Your Money Now.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code EARN to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code EARN for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code EARN for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
So who's right about the big, beautiful bill? That's one topic here for Telephone Tuesday. Jump on in here, 241-9797. Is it big? Is it beautiful? Is that possible? Do you think it's nonsense? Is it garbage like Elon says? Do you want your local representatives to vote for it? 241-9797. We'd love to have some thoughts here this afternoon. It's Telephone Tuesday. I want you to make your home the best looking home in the neighborhood, and you can do that with the team at Banner Construction. Bill Kaufman and Sam P have asked me also to give a shout out to those of you who are carpenters. If you are an experienced carpenter here in St. Louis, they need some help at Banner Construction. Now, if you have a home with old, worn out, light, plain old vinyl siding that doesn't look very attractive, click on bannerconstruction.com. Then right below that, at the top of the page, you'll see the showcase. And the showcase has homes from Chesterfield, from the city of St. Louis, from Baldwin, from O'Fallon, from Webster Groves, from all over. And they'll show you the look, and they'll give you the specific James Hardy product that they featured. They're going to make your home look like it's really, really special, maybe the best looking home in the neighborhood. They can do it right now with a free in-home design consultation. It's real easy to get a hold of them. 314-569-1050 is the number. Again, if you're a carpenter that needs a gig, they can help you out with that too. Bannerconstruction.com is the website. Banner Construction.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love, guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay, things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
A little controversy for your afternoon. The Mark Reardon Show.
Sue reacted there. Little go-go's for your
Love
Tuesday
it.
afternoon. So if you missed the beginning of the show, or you have not been on the platform that this guy owns, because there was a pretty harsh tweet. I guess, I don't know if President Trump's going to take it personally or not. I'll play a little audio here. So Elon Musk tweets this out just a few hours ago. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. It's a little hard to feel, exactly where Elon is on this. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. One of the people, I retweeted Phil Holloway, who was a guest on the show in the last hour. And one of the first person that responded to Phil said, Elon has said that we are on our way to bankruptcy without cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse. That's not true, okay? You can cut all the waste, fraud, and abuse you want. You can cut it all. Let's say you take all of it out. It's kind of like climate change. You can shut down our country. Literally, you can't, but let's say you could. The climate is going to be right back where it was in a few years because of China and India. In this case, you could take all the savings from the waste, fraud, and abuse, and it will not really put a nick in the deficit and in the spending because of Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid, and defense. You got to throw that in there too. I'm not making that up. Anyone with a brain, and Elon should know this because he's being dishonest here about part of the process. So Peter Doocy is in the press room. Carolyn's asked this question.
How mad do you think President Trump is going to be when he finds out that Elon Musk said, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it."
Look, the president already knows where Elon Musk stood on this bill. It doesn't change the president's opinion. This is one big, beautiful bill, and he's sticking to it.
All right, here's the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
It's very disappointing, okay? I've come to consider Elon a good friend. He's obviously a very intelligent person, and he's done a lot of great work. With all due respect, my friend Elon is terribly wrong.
I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here, hopefully not. But when I was hanging with Scott Jennings a week ago, I asked him about Elon. And I said, well, what's Elon like? He goes, well, he's kind of weird. And I don't think that's not really a secret, right? Now, he's right about some of this, and I addressed this earlier, but it's very, very complicated. So if you want to comment on that this afternoon, feel free to do so. It's Telephone Tuesday, 314-241-9797. Let's see if I can press the right buttons here. Steve, get us started here. You're on 97.1 FM Talk.
Hey, Mark, first thing I want to let people know that may not be aware of this, Donald Trump dabbled his toes within the WWE with Vince McMahon. So he knows about the showmanship and stuff like that. That being said, I do believe that him and Elon Musk behind closed doors came to an understanding or an agreement where Musk can come out and make some statement and Trump will agree to not lash out at him. And as long as it's within bounds or whatever. And Musk can turn around to his liberal friends then and say, well, we parted ways and I'm sorry, blah, 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 so that he can get back in their graces or whatever. So I think this is something to set up behind closed doors, and Trump's 100% on board with it.
Okay, I think part of that might be true, Steve. I do think that it's not going to be shocking to the president that Elon said this because he said some of this on that CBS Sunday morning show, right? And he was ripped in the process. But he was also in the Oval Office with the president last week. He was standing right there with him. He was talking about the service. I'll be very curious. Fred, we haven't seen a reaction from the president yet.
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, he's the most accessible president we've ever had. Certainly in my lifetime. So I can't imagine that at some point he's not going to say this. Now, is he going to break bad on Elon? I don't think he will because I think he appreciates what Elon did. I don't think it's because Elon can go running to his, liberal friends because we're way beyond that point because he's a Nazi, because he worked with Trump. So it doesn't matter. They will never, ever, ever forgive him for even being in the same room with Donald Trump. That's just, the way it is right now. Well, Paul, go ahead. No, you said, what were you going to say?
I was going to say the fact that it's a huge spending bill after Elon Musk and Doge, and the whole point of that was to cut back and try to make us more efficient, is super frustrating.
It's frustrating, but you're not looking at the big picture. It's just complicated. Most people, even the members of Congress, don't understand the damn process. They cannot do what people want. They can't do what Elon wants within the Constitution in the process of reconciliation. So what they have to do, I don't know how much more I can explain this. This bill either is going to pass or not. And if it doesn't pass, everyone's taxes go up. And by everyone, I mean everyone, if you're getting a paycheck. All right. So that's option A. You want that? You want all this cut? They can't even cut it. So how about, here's where I will defend the lawmakers. How about we do this? Because this is what we're doing right now. You get a bill to the president. You figure something out. And then you go back in, you have some courage to cut. The other thing about this is, Sue, and you know this because you've been around long enough, some of these things are so ridiculous when it comes to cuts. If you just go back, sometimes we recommend that we go back, for example, to a 2020 spending level, right? Mm-hmm. And that's deemed a cut. Well, you can't do that because from 2020 to 2025, you know how much that damn budget has grown? A lot. And I know people are frustrated, but what do you want them to do? This is a serious question. What would you like the lawmakers to do? Not do anything? Take a stand. We're not going to pass this. And everyone's taxes go up and the farmers have to pay the estate tax and they can't afford to leave their farms to their kids. That's where we are right now. So what do you want?
I think the frustration with people, though, is that. And that, if the whole point is to clean it up and to get it down, and then all we do is say we're going to do it and then do more, it's the same old thing.
But it's not within the process, there's not an ability to do what people think that they should do. So there's no magic trick here. The magic trick was already accomplished with USAID and some of these other things that were nonsense, right? They haven't shut down the Department of Education. They haven't defunded NPR. They don't have the votes to do it. You actually have members of Congress who are Republicans who won't defund NPR because they claim that in the rural area they need NPR. Well, so what do you want them to do?
Oh,
they have,
geez.
you know how much this cleared the House? 1 vote. So there's not a lot of options here. And it's frustrating to me that a lot of people don't understand the process, because the process is the process. You want to go back and redo the process? Well, you have to elect people, and you have to get a 60+ majority in the Senate, and you have to have a bigger margin in the House. I hate to tell you, that ain't going to happen. Okay, in the modern era of politics, it is simply not going to happen. I know compromise is a dirty word. It is the only path to getting anything done. And if you want to sit on your hands and you don't want to do anything, well, that's fine, but then your taxes go up. So make that choice as well. Paul, you're on Telephone Tuesday. Good afternoon.
Thank you. I first want to say that, I just call balls and strikes at this point. But, the only thing that, I'm loyal to is limiting the size of government, thus maximize my liberty. And, I don't soil my knees for any one individual politician. That being said, in the days of milk and honey where we're at now, people like Ron Johnson and Rand Paul and Thomas Massey, they're going to be hated and they're going to be loathed. But once we get past the land of milk and honey, which is going to be quick, and we reach the point of default, people like Rand Paul and, Ron Johnson and Thomas Massey, they're going to be lauded and loved. So, but what's really sad is we don't have to get to that point. There are things that could be done. And if we can't do it because of moderate Republican senators on the East Coast and out West, well, that's just, for things like, the SALT deductions and everything.
Well, so what do you want to do about that then? What would you like to do? Would you like the Democrats to have control? Because those are districts in some cases that Kamala Harris won. So you have to put people in a position to win. So in your scenario, which I understand, and by the way, I love Ron Johnson. Okay, I like Rand Paul, and I'm glad that they're taking a stand. But the bottom line are the numbers and the math don't work out. It's kind of the same thing on the other side. Schumer's going to fight the big, beautiful bill. He can't do it. He doesn't have the numbers. So what's your answer? I'm very curious about this, Paul. What is your answer for the districts that are more moderate where Republicans won? Would you rather have a Democrat in there? Because that's your option.
All right, I'm gonna answer your question with a question. I don't know what's going to happen with that scenario, but I do know what's going to happen when this country financially defaults. I do know that.
Okay, let's be honest about one other thing. Do you understand that the reason that the country might financially destruct has nothing to do with this bill and has everything to do with the entitlements? Do you know that?
Well, absolutely.
Okay.
And you know what? I'll take it a step further. The one thing that you never mentioned, as far as the entitlements defense, what's the other driver of the debt that you're not mentioning, Mark?
I don't know. You tell me.
Shouldn't even be there.
What is it?
It's the interest on the debt, which shouldn't even be.
Okay, well, that's fine. I can mention that. I'm not avoiding that topic. It's not like I'm trying to hide that. Of course it is. But you're trying to address the issue of the debt. You can't do it without the numbers. You can't do it without addressing the entitlements. So everyone wants to stand on their high horse and say, oh, I'm going to stand with Ron Johnson and Rand Paul, and that's fine. I laud them for actually taking a stand. But the reality is the reality, and you're going to hear that from Trump. So everyone who voted for Trump and you love Trump, he will be honest about this because he gets it now. He really does. EJ, I'm sorry, you're on 97.1 FM Talk.
Thanks, Mark. Let's take a breath. Hey, love you, listen to you every day, but I'm kind of scared when we talk about entitlements, and here's why. Number one, two, I've been paying into entitlements that I've been expecting to receive for 60 years now.
Okay, let me just tell you something right there. I'm going to stop you right there because this is the fact. Anytime we ever talk about entitlement reform would not even affect people who are 50 years old. Okay. So if we talk about this, and I'm just saying, any plan that's been put up as far as real entitlement reform, it would not touch people, but it would touch my kids. It would touch my grandkids. Right. But the question is, let's go back to the previous caller because he's right. Then the question is, well, what would you like to hand to the future generation? Right. Default bankruptcy, but it's not going to hit you. That's not going to happen. Let's just be realistic. These members of Congress are not going to do that because they will not be reelected. And they want to do one thing more than anything else, hold on to their job.
Okay, well, I thank you. I was not aware of that. Thank you. And our children and their children can prepare for it and see it coming. We haven't had a chance to prepare for it. So
we have, though. No. We have.
what?
I've been talking. Look, the reason that I voted for Ronald Reagan is because I thought that the size of government and the debt was going to be reduced and that members of Congress would do something. This is not new. We've talked about it for decades, and it's not being fixed, which leaves me with zero hope that they'll ever fix it.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Crews are on the scene of an accident on northbound 170 approaching 70, and they've got the two left lanes blocked. We've got a fire truck on the scene. Traffic, of course, is stacked up behind that. Also an accident westbound 70 near 270. That one in the right lane with some volume there. And there was a stall westbound 70 past 370 in the right lane. Plenty of volume. Southbound 170 headed down towards 64. And southbound 270 has slow pockets approaching Page down through Manchester. We've got southbound 55 slowing at Bates. Now out west, we've got 70 with a little bit of moderate volume in the O'Fallon area and then in pockets out through Wentzville. 64 slows at Clarkson and at Highway N. Headed into Illinois, volume east and westbound, but it's just moderate on the Poplar Street Bridge. Traffic brought to you by Lakeside Renovation and Design. For over 25 years, they've been St. Louis's trusted choice for transforming homes inside and out. Windows, kitchens, baths, outdoor spaces. They deliver quality craftsmanship backed by lifetime warranties. Visit lakesiderd.com. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's Traffic 97.1 FM Talk.
Okay, if you want to jump in here on this topic, 241-9797. See what happens when my blood pressure goes up here? I'm just telling it the way it is, ladies and gentlemen. 241-9797. Sue, I think it's your turn here.
Again?
Yeah.
Stand by.
Yeah,
Hey,
okay.
have you saved enough money for retirement? I mean, a lot of us have saved and we think, all right, I think I'm doing well here. And then retirement gets closer and closer and you think, wait, I need a specific plan. And I'm not sure how all of this works, which is why I like the idea of a one-night, 3-hour adult education class. And it's put on by a fiduciary advisor from Financial and Tax Architects, and they teach you about some of these things. Here's when you take Social Security. Here's a good tax benefit if you do this. And they do this for free, but they ask that you bring some canned goods for St. Louis Crisis Nursery. So if you would like to go, just get educated, but you do have to make an appointment. So call 314-947-2012, 314-947-2012.
Another RX Watch, brought to you by Onder Law.
Welcome back to RX Watch. This alert is disturbing.
Right. A while back, we learned that companies like Johnson & Johnson use a mineral called talc in baby powder and other products.
And studies show that talc, when used for feminine hygiene, can cause ovarian cancer.
Now listen to this. RX Watch has learned that the talc they use is being mined in China.
Right, and talc mined in China contains heavy metal contaminants like chromium and magnesium, which are known to cause cancer. But China doesn't care.
So China gets the jobs and we get contaminated talc in our baby powder.
And ovarian cancer.
Right. With their specialized tests, the medical team at Onder Law can help you know if your ovarian cancer was caused by talc.
Onder Law has helped women for years with free and confidential consultation. You need to call Onder Law's pharma attorneys at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
That's 1-800-RX-WATCH, or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Is thinning hair or receding hairline making you self-conscious? Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
97.1 FM Talk presents Talk in Action, where we shine a spotlight on local charities making a difference in our community. Join us as we give back and connect neighbors in need. Visit 971talk.com/talkinaction to learn more. Lighting it up. Mark Reardon on 97.1 FM Talk.
All right, let me address this in a different way here before we get back to the calls, because even though I hate Caitlin Collins from CNN, she asked this question today, and it was a good question. And Carolyn had an answer, and I'm just going to tell you, I don't think Carolyn's right, but this is the line that they're going with. Now, again, you have to understand that there are mathematical limitations to what Congress is made up of right now, both on the House and the Senate.
On the big beautiful bill, you said recently that it is, quote, blatantly wrong to say that it adds to the deficit. You essentially said that an estimate from the Congressional Budget Office and other scorekeepers you believe are wrong. But Republicans like Ron Johnson and Rand Paul disagree. They are saying that it will add to the deficit. That is their concern. Is the White House's position that those two Republican senators are, quote, blatantly wrong?
So my position is that they're not blatantly wrong. My position is that they are blatantly correct. But my position is also that there is no other way to do this right now. So here's the answer.
So those senators, it's not news that they disagree with this president on policy, and the president has vocally called them out for it and for they're not having their facts together. I would add the Congressional Budget Office has been historically wrong. In fact, they predicted the Trump tax cuts from the president's first term in 2017. Their prediction was wrong by $500 billion. Those tax cuts had nearly $500 billion more of revenue than the Congressional Budget Office scored. And we are very confident in our own economic analyses of this bill. There is $1.6 trillion in savings.
Okay, well, and again, I would side with Rand Paul and Ron Johnson on the numbers. I really would, but I don't know what the path is. I'll be very curious to see where the president lands on all this, especially on the Elon tweet, whatever it was. Sandy, you're on Telephone Tuesday on 97.1 FM Talk. How are you?
Good. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing better, although my blood pressure is rising this afternoon.
Well, I'm going to start this conversation and hopefully that helps with this. I just want to share my deep appreciation for all of you. Sue, I adore you. You guys are like my family. I feel like you're my family every day on my ride home. I don't know what I would do without you guys. I learn something new every show. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, that's awesome. We really, really appreciate it. It's a team effort, believe me. And, Fred's right
I
here.
believe
Ethan,
you.
everyone works very hard, except
And
for
Fred,
me.
you don't want to forget Fred.
No, we don't.
Oh, thank you.
But also too, before I go on to the next subject, is I wanted to share my deep condolences over Duke. I've been there more than once. I know how difficult it is. So my condolences, and I'm very sorry for your loss.
Well, I appreciate that, but you probably heard that we've opened our hearts again, and we did a rescue, and I have a new puppy. So it seems like it's a little fast, but the timetable got cranked up a little bit because of the realities of the summer. But Sandy, thank you so much, and go ahead, whatever else you were was on your mind here.
Secondly, I want to say that I am in complete agreement with this bill. And like you said, there really is absolutely no other way they can do this. I mean, I know that they need to make cuts and changes, but I think in previous conversations that you had, there's a way to do that with restitutions, right? That you can go in and make changes.
Well, they're hoping that after this bill is passed, that they can go back in and cut. And that's going to be the proof's going to be literally in the pudding. Can they do something that takes courage? I don't have a lot of confidence that they can, because this was all kind of cool to see a few months ago, but the reality is kind of setting in right now.
Right. No, I completely agree. So that's all I had to say. I just wanted to I can't believe I finally got in to share my love with you guys, and keep doing what you're doing. Keep fighting the good fight, and I love you guys.
Well, that is awesome, and it means more than you will ever know, because we can't sit here and do what we do if we don't have you. I mean, seriously, we have to have an audience. We have to have listeners. So thank you so much. John, you're on Telephone Tuesdays on 97.1 FM Talk. Go ahead.
I'm so old, I was at a Barry Goldwater rally, and the Dems have been telling us that Republicans were going to take away Social Security since then. Now, nothing has changed, and I am convinced that no politician wants anything to change. They want problems. They do not want to solve problems.
Well, sadly, I think, I don't want to be as pessimistic as I probably am. I just think it's complicated, and you don't have a dictatorship, even though the Democrats want to claim. And Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, they lie. One of the things that the caller even brought up, I'm just telling you, I've followed this for a long time. There is no realistic proposal that's ever come forward to say, hey, you're about to turn 65. We're going to snag your Social Security benefits. Now, they may talk a little bit about raising the contribution level, the salary that's required, where you get rid of the Social Security payments, but that's still never in the plans that I've seen, and I've seen it since the early 2000s, have really addressed the particulars of people who are approaching retirement. It's always people that are younger than 50, because that's what we're talking about. We're solving this for the future, but they ain't going to solve it for the future because they haven't solved it for the future. So I don't want to be as pessimistic as the caller, but I don't think that the math works. I don't think you have enough courageous Republicans. You know, it'd be great if the entire makeup of the Senate, or maybe 60 members plus, were like Rand Paul and Ron Johnson. But they're not all like that. And by the way, Ron Johnson just won by the skin of his teeth a couple of years ago, and most people thought he was going to lose, and he won his second term. It's kind of a miracle in Wisconsin that Ron Johnson even won. I love Rand Paul. I've been more of a libertarian conservative my entire life. And I appreciate that he is standing on principle, and that Senator Johnson and Senator Hawley's doing it in a different way with Medicaid. I have deep appreciation for that. But the word that I couldn't pronounce earlier today, you want to say it, Sue?
Sausage.
That's what they're making right now. And it's not real pleasant to see the way that they're making it. And it's fundamentally frustrating and aggravating. I get all of that. But it is what it is, and there's limitations to what can be changed. That's how I would put it.
Catch anything you missed today by getting the show podcast at 971talk.com. Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Crews are still on the scene of an accident northbound 170 just past Natural Bridge. I mean, fire trucks, the whole thing. And they've got the two left lanes blocked. Traffic is really stacked up behind it. It's a parking lot back past the Rock Road. We've got southbound 170 really slow now, and that's from Olive down through, well, there's an accident reported northbound just north of 6440, so it's jammed down through there. And then that accident is causing a delay on east and westbound 6440, trying to get on the inner belt. Westbound 40 is slow go Kings Highway out past McCausland. 70 is slow past Lindbergh out through 270. And out west, some moderate volume on 6440 and on 70, headed out toward the Wentzville area. Southbound 270, slow pockets from looks like Page now down through 44. Southbound 55 is slowing, headed for Bates, and volume in both directions on the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
You know, the one thing that I didn't mention that I should mention here is that I wish we had a balanced budget amendment, because that would solve a lot of this.
Yes, it would.
Okay, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about the balanced budget amendment, because we have that in Missouri, of course. They have to balance the budget. And Nick Schroer is going to talk about that here in just a little bit. New Perspective Senior Living is an awesome new independent assisted living facility that is in Weldon Spring, and it's fantastic. I'm still trying to get out there maybe this week. I haven't seen the team out there. I want to talk about the team because it is a great team. You would expect in a new facility, beautiful big apartments, walk-in closets, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances. Of course, you're going to have that. But are you going to have the team and the community that brings it all together? Really, the mix of autonomy and care, allowing you to thrive with the right support. They have a memory care facility. They use technology. They have an AI fall detection system. If you're looking for something where home is really where the heart is, they can provide it at New Perspective Senior Living. A great location in Weldon Spring, right next to Persimmon Woods Golf Course. Easy access to 6440. Check them out today at N as in Nancy, P as in Paul, npseniorliving.com for New Perspective Senior Living.
If you owe the IRS, you have a legal issue, and you need the Lance Drury Law Firm. We'll protect your rights. Log on at lancedrurylaw.com or call us toll-free at 888-367-6512.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel, and host of On the Money, Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
We all have someone we love, like the favorite lyric in our favorite song. You can't imagine life without them. So tell them today, I love you. Get screened. It could help save their life. Visit cancer.org/getscreened to learn more.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
In custody, I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The White House says the wife and 5 children of Mohammed Soliman, the man accused of a firebomb attack on a pro-Israel group in Colorado, could be deported as soon as tonight. Soliman, an Egyptian national in the U.S. illegally, faces state and federal charges.
Colorado is filing 16 counts of attempted first-degree murder, plus charges for use of an incendiary device. He is also being charged with a federal hate crime. The arrest warrant shows Soliman told police, quote, in order to get as close as possible to the group, he dressed himself like a gardener. He wore an orange vest, bought flowers from Home Depot in Castle Rock, and purchased a backpack sprayer, which he filled with gas and wore on his back as he approached the group. He also said that he didn't spray it on others because he planned to use it on himself because he expected to die.
Fox's Alicia Cunha. Police say Soliman didn't carry out his full plan because he got scared and had never hurt anyone before. President Trump announced last week tomorrow it goes into effect a 50% tariff on most steel and aluminum imported to the U.S., double his initial plan. The U.K. will be exempt, where imports will remain at 25% as part of a framework trade deal agreed to last month. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says it's full steam ahead for President Trump's spending bill, despite criticism from Elon Musk.
The president already knows where Elon Musk stood on this bill. It doesn't change the president's opinion. This is one big, beautiful bill, and he's sticking to it.
Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, who was singled out by the president for voting no.
So this bill actually increases in the first couple of years spending more than all the DOGE cuts combined.
The Congressional Budget Office estimated the bill would grow the deficit by $4 trillion. Wall Street, the Dow gained 214, the NASDAQ up 156. America is listening to Fox News.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Sometimes an identity threat is a ring of professional hackers. And sometimes it's an overworked accountant who forgot to encrypt their connection while sending bank details.
I need a coffee.
And you need LifeLock because your info is in endless places. It only takes one mistake to expose you to identity theft. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Cloudy and breezy as we head into the evening with temperatures in the 70s, and we stay in the 70s all night long, 72 for the low. The good news, any severe weather is staying way, way out to our west-northwest. Not a concern for us, but we will see a couple of showers, maybe a rumble of thunder, but not raining all the time. That's the same story on Wednesday. Nothing severe, 80 degrees and still unsettled Wednesday night. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts.
Follow Mark on Twitter at Mark Reardon KFTK and Instagram at Mark Talk. This is the Mark Reardon Show.
Well, I had some really good Riley Gaines tape. You know, you had a couple of young women who stepped off the podium in Oregon after a track meet this weekend, taking a stand. You know who's great on that outside of Riley is Jen Say from XY Athletics. I have an interesting hat story to tell to Jen as well, because I love her gear. So I don't know if you've ever been on their website, but they've got awesome gear. She does not pay me to say this. I bought it on my own with my own money, but it's really good quality. And I do kind of have a funny story to share with her when she joins us at the bottom of the hour. You know, what we're about to enter into with State Senator Nick Schroer, one of my favorites, is a bit of a microcosm of what happens on the federal level. And maybe, Nick, I can start by saying I just had a very heated conversation about the big, beautiful bill. You've seen Elon's tweet today or not? Have you seen it?
I have not. I've been paying attention to the different hearings out here. What did he say?
Okay, so this is kind of the big national story of the day. He said, I want to read it exactly to you because I don't want to misquote it here. This was about 5 hours ago. He said, "I'm sorry, but I can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." Now, I've made the case this afternoon that the math doesn't really work out here for the people who want the magic trick, but that's pretty hardcore, and President Trump has not responded. Carolyn has, but what are your thoughts on that, hearing that here for the first time?
Well, I was able to see this kind of firsthand, this sausage being made, as they say, as the House was debating this late into the night. It was like midnight when we finally left the gallery 2 weeks ago. Was down there for a different convention, and we kind of saw the different factions of the Republican Party. You had the Freedom Caucusers saying, hey, we want to pull back spending. We want to rein in all of this excessive spending like Elon's talked about. Then you've got a lot of these salt state Republicans in Democrat states that want to see all of these different increases and handouts. So I'm hoping that Eric Schmidt, Josh Hawley can cut some of that excess fat and keep some of the good stuff in there, like protecting the wall and stopping all of these heinous things that we're paying for with our tax dollars, like the surgeries to change Johnny to Jill. But yeah, I kind of agree with Elon that these bloated bills, we need to stop this if we're going to change the course of American history.
I don't disagree with that. But what I've said is the numbers are the numbers, and people, I think, expect miracles. We have members of Congress, and you know this because you saw this. You have members of Congress that are Republicans that are probably a little bit more like Democrats because they won in districts that, Kamala Harris won. So what did you do about that? Would you like to shift over to think about the options here, all right? You have Hakeem Jeffries would be the Speaker of the House, and we wouldn't be talking about any of this right now. They'd want to be talking about spending more money. And not only that, they'd raise taxes on everyone. So that's your other option too. So I guess in the end here, I'm a bit more of a realist, but let's segue into Missouri, because one of the good things about our state is we have a balanced budget requirement, right? So you're now in a special session, and I want you to explain why you're there first and foremost, but there's a lot of money on the line right here, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a ton of money on the line. We've got the disaster relief with different natural disasters that have happened not only in our neck of the woods in the St. Louis City and St. Louis County areas, even St. Charles County. They were blasted with a lot of hail, but there were some other storms earlier in the year that I know the feds have stepped up and are working with the different counties and cities that were impacted back then. But yeah, we've got $25 million for disaster relief, and the Democrats and even some Republicans are saying, hey, let's increase that. I know some of the Democrats have even said, Steve Roberts and Steve Weber have said, we want to see, instead of $25 million, we want to see $250 million. So I highly doubt we're going to be going that egregious when it comes to what we're spending. But then on the stadium deals, we've got billions of dollars that we're discussing, kind of handing over to these stadium owners to either renovate or get new stadiums. And we can get in the weeds in that as well. But here, the Freedom Caucusers and the more conservative Republicans are saying, well, wait a second. If we're spending all of this money like it's going out of style, let's return some of this money back to those who are making it, whether it's a tax break, an income tax, personal property tax, real estate tax. The number one thing that I keep hearing about in our neck of the woods is, look, our assessments have just came in and they are skyrocketing. We need to do something about these runaway taxes. So that's where the chess game is happening right now. And to your point of what's happening in D.C., if the numbers don't math, if you don't have enough conservatives that think the exact same way that we do of let's get rid of personal property tax, let's at least not spend another session kicking the can. Let's do something. Let's trim it. Let's cap it. Let's freeze it. Let's do something. And ultimately, with the new cast of characters in the Missouri Senate, I think we're going to get something. It's not going to be the big income tax repeal, even though I think that there's a phenomenal path. After talking to a lot of different characters up here in Jefferson City this week, I think we do have a path to get to zero income tax next year. But when it comes to real estate assessments or personal property tax, I do firmly believe, and a lot can change overnight, but I do firmly believe when we go into session tomorrow, there's going to be several different paths on, and I think bipartisan paths on modifying and kind of renovating how we do taxation here in the state of Missouri.
So you just reminded me of something, and I'm not going to identify. This is a friend of mine, and I promised him I would follow up on this, and I kind of spaced it out, but he sent me this text just a few weeks ago. And he said this: want to see comedy hour about our county government. My 2025 assessment went from 536,000 in 2024 to 767,000 this year. So that's a 43% increase. And he said he did an appeal and they adjusted it. Well, now they adjusted it to a 59% increase. They actually adjusted it in the other direction. And when asked for an explanation, they said, go through a formal review process, and they closed the case. And he said, talk about BS. So that's the kind of real stuff that people are experiencing right now, Nick.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I'm hearing in St. Charles County. I've got Joe Nicola is a suite mate of mine, my next door neighbor here in the Senate, and in his neck of the woods out on the western side of the state, they're dealing with the same thing. So we're going to see some discussions tomorrow on the State Tax Commission and their push. They're trying to enforce increases in property values. And we need to go the opposite direction. We need to put more power into the hands of the people. And look, when you've got homes that people have lived in for 20 years, haven't done any modifications, and all of a sudden the value of it's jumping by 50%, something is a little off here. And we need to put the power back in their hands if they want to appeal. I've got friends who have appealed, and just like you said, it went in the opposite direction. It actually increased more than it did previously. So that's where we need to get serious. If we're going to have a supermajority Republican Party, let's do something with it. And I know that there is an appetite there with the people who are ticked off at how expensive life is getting in Missouri.
But that just to highlight something you just said, that's kind of the difference between Missouri. The two differences: we have a balanced budget requirement, right? We also have a supermajority Republicans. So it'd be one thing if there was a supermajority in Congress and some of this stuff wasn't getting done. But in Missouri, I think it's a completely different situation. Now, piggybacking off of that, explain, because this is getting a lot more attention on the other side. And by the way, Kansas City got whacked with tornadoes today, and I don't know about the damage, but the stadium bill situation, what's going on with that? And explain that to the audience, because again, I don't think a lot of people here understand what's happening there.
Yeah. So the special session, session by our Constitution ends. It ended a couple weeks ago. So there's a set date and time that you have to gavel out by. So if you don't get the work done, you got to go back either to session the next year or go into a special session. Now, in a special session, the governor can call it at their leisure. And we've had Democrat and Republican governors do this, but they get to lay out basically the directions as to what they're calling us back for. And this governor laid out a couple things. He laid out, keeping the Royals and the Chiefs here. And so, in so many words, he's stating that we have to find a way to incentivize them to stay here. He's also trying to get some disaster relief to those in these impacted areas, right, not just the city of St. Louis. So if it's not in his directions, you basically can't do it. And you can get point of order. You can call out, if somebody wants to drop an amendment to move school board elections to November. Well, that's not in the call of the special session. So it actually makes all of the different parties, the House, the Senate, and the governor's office, those three actors come together, because if you want something in there like tax cuts, we've got to find a path, and we have to get the consensus of the governor to change that call of special session. So essentially here, what the state of Kansas has done is written a blank check. I think they're going to pay for up to basically 75% of the new stadiums if the Chiefs and the Royals move over there. You're going to get handouts from our good friends over there who signed an agreement a couple of years ago to not do these types of things, for lack of a better term, a border war. So what we're trying to do, and I don't necessarily agree with it, even though I think it's a better approach than what Kansas is doing, it's almost like a super TIF, where they're taking some of this sales tax generated, the tax money generated, and allowing them to bond off of that money for a certain amount of years. I think it's like 30 years to use that money to renovate or build new stadiums. And essentially what both of these teams want to do, in talking to their different lobbyists, Kansas wants a brand new stadium. And the Chiefs, or the Kansas City Royals, want a brand new stadium, and the Kansas City Chiefs want to demolish Kauffman Stadium, even though there's nothing wrong with either one of them, so they can renovate and expand their footprint in a similar fashion to what the Cardinals have done with Ballpark Village. However, here's something that really ticks you off if you paid attention to what happened with the Rams, the NFL owners colluding, including the owners of the Kansas City Chiefs, to kick the Rams out to Los Angeles. back when that was happening and we were spending taxpayer dollars figuring out a way to build a new stadium for the Rams in St. Louis, Stan Kroenke bought land in LA and said, no, don't look at it. This has nothing to do. We're not moving. We're staying in St. Louis. Well, the Royals have taken over a lease in Overland Park, Kansas, in an area where now everybody's focusing on it, saying, oh, you're going to Kroenke us. You're going to waste our time and the taxpayer dollars that are being utilized in the special session, and you're going to move to Overland Park, Kansas. Well, they're being coy, and they're saying we haven't made up our minds, we haven't made our decisions. So that's where I will be filing a piece of legislation tomorrow. I'll update you. I'll send you some pictures on this.
Good. Please do.
Yeah, it's going to be a little tongue in cheek, but it's going to declare that the Cardinals are the rightful MLB team of the state of Missouri, and every other team is a subpar organization.
So, while I would agree with that, the owner of the Royals, John Sherman, says, look, we're not playing in Kauffman Stadium beyond the 2030 season. The leases go until 2031. I'd like to keep them here as well in Missouri. There are economic benefits, but then you get to the handouts and the tax incentives and all this other stuff, and it adds up. So if you had to handicap the stadium issue right now, where do you think it's going to land? And you also have to say, here's what I saw this morning, and you know this process much better than I, but I know Cindy O'Loughlin replaced someone on one of these committees because she thought she didn't have the vote. So one of the other things that happens in a state legislature or even in Washington, if the leaders of the committee don't like where it's going, and I guess Mike Kehoe might not like where it's going, they're going to try to get the math to where they want it to go. Right, Nick, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there were some changes made to the committees that they went through. I think there are three bills. There's a budget bill, there's some other disaster relief, and there's the stadium bill. I think a form of all three of those will pass. I think it's going to be a heck of a lot better, and I've said this to our friend Scott Fawn and many others, that if we can get a tax cut, I think that's going to sweeten the deal and make it a lot better. Will I be voting for any stadium funding or handout? No, not at all. But I will work with the governor to make that process better if it's going to result in us actually getting tax reform in the state of Missouri. Now, here's in my crystal ball. I've said this to many people. I think the Royals will be gone, and if they do, see ya.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
fine with that.
Chiefs. I think the Chiefs will stay, though, from all the talks that I've had, despite the fact that I'm still a little heated at them for colluding with Jerry Jones and other NFL owners to kick our beloved St. Louis Rams to the door and allow them to go to Los Angeles.
So let me take you back to the regular session, because this applies as well. And you can correct me on the math, but there was like $50 million that was originally on the table as incentives for the dude who bought the AT&T building dirt cheap, right? And that did not get to the governor, correct, Nick?
No, it did not. It passed through the Senate. I voted against it. Several of us did. And it went over into the House, where the leadership over there started looking at it and said, well, hey, there's really no barriers here. That it just looks like it's not only going to be $50 million, it's going to be all these other perks as well.
Yeah. And let's just talk about the common sense aspect of that. For anyone to think that a few of us could have got together, you're a lawyer, so you're worth more than I am, but a couple of people, probably a lot of people listening right now, could have bought that building for $3 million and then asked for handouts of $50 million when you have a downtown St. Louis that's literally falling apart. So I think you know this. I'm not preaching at you, but I would say, hey, until St. Louis can prove, well, first of all, I don't like the handouts anyway, but you'd have to prove a lot here for me to support 50 million, 5 million, 1 million for the guy who bought the building dirt cheap. Same thing with Ballpark Village, et cetera, with Cordish and the, the hotel renovation. They're going to want handouts too. So this is a process and the asks are not going away. And then they're going to hear, this is what we hear. You know this, Nick, the sky is falling, right? You're going to hear it on the Royals. We can't have the Royals leave Missouri. Well, on this side of the state, we're cool with it, right? we're fine with it. Yeah. But the scare tactics are going to be in play. And that's what you're going to hear.
Well, we're going to have to put our foot down. I mean, at what point are we going to stop the bleeding? At what point are we going to stop the handouts? Because once we start handing out to, and we're already seeing it, once we're handing out to the Royals and the Chiefs, then you've got, the Dome. They're coming in saying, well, wait a second, even though we got all this Ram settlement money that we haven't spent on anything, and thank God they're talking about using it for some of the disaster relief in St. Louis. Right. But then you've got Cardinals, and now Mizzou's coming forward. And again, you've got all of these private businesses doing it as well. We are a super majority Republican state. There are other ways to incentivize and keep these teams here. Hopefully, we're going to take that road and keep these teams and save taxpayer dollars and send more in your pocket.
Okay, one more topic, just because you mentioned Mizzou. This one of these proposals is for $25 million to help fund a nuclear research reactor at University of Missouri. Now, I think that that's at least worthy of a discussion if we're going to build a nuclear research reactor, because we should have done that 30 years ago. That's my position on that.
100%. My only issue with the way that we do these budget bills, even though I do agree with that, I think that's phenomenal that we're finally having this discussion. You and I both hunt out in Howard County, so
right, exactly.
Mizzou is like a second home for us. And even though I like that, there's some other stuff in the budget bill that caused me to vote against it when it came across during the regular session.
That. Fair enough.
I'm hearing it's going to be trimmed back a little bit more, but yeah, I do think that is one thing that you and I can both agree on. We're moving in the right direction when it comes to healthcare and innovation.
Nick Schroer, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all. God bless you.
Send the info. Send me updates as this progresses. All right, I want to know. I want to be educated. I appreciate it. That's Senator Nick Schroer.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Accident northbound 170 past 6440. And this has been blocking the right lane. It's created a jam back onto 64. And we've got southbound traffic lined up in the area as well. Accident southbound Kings Highway south of Forest Park Parkway causing a delay. Accident reported on northbound 141 past 6440. Now, the heaviest traffic, we've got volume 70 westbound past the airport. And then again, as you head for Wentzville, 64 a little bit slow through Chesterfield Valley and at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. There's volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge as drivers come in tonight for downtown activities. And eastbound 40 slow on either side of 170. Southbound 55 slowing at Bates. I'm Sue Thomas. That's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, it's about this time every night I kind of look at the market and see what happened. It was up today, 214 points, but I want to talk about Thomas Helbig, the official financial planners of this show. Some of this is very simple. You see the fluctuations. At least you hear about them. I try not to look at my 401k. I'm still a few years away from retirement. But, the reality is there's tough times out there, and maybe it gets tougher. That's why you need someone like Thomas Helbig and his nephew, Bob Kershaw, and Bob's wife, Tammy, on your side. They have a different approach, and this is what we try to explain when we do these Protect Your Retirement events. There's another one coming up on June 17th at 6:30 p.m. They're very easy in and out. That's going to be here before you know it. That's 2 weeks from, is that 2 weeks from today, Sue, the 16th? Or the 17th. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's 2 weeks from tonight. I can't believe that. We're going to be at the Doubletree in Chesterfield. All you have to do right now is go to retirementkey.com. Right on the front page, you'll see register, and you just have to sign up. These are free events. We'd love to have you there. It only takes about an hour. If you show up at 6, it might be like a little more than an hour and a half because we meet and greet. Mark and Annie and I will all be there. You can register online, or you can go one-on-one, because right below the register tab, you'll see a little thing that says rather meet one-on-one, schedule a meeting with a member of the team. Some people like the group settings. If you're that person, come to the group setting. If you want to meet one-on-one, schedule a meeting. Do it at retirementkey.com today.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is, who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset? Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardy contractor and Pella Window specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050. Now hiring qualified carpenters.
Men, need a clinic that accepts all insurance, including Medicare? U.S. Men's Medical Center in St. Peters does. U.S. Men's helps men experiencing loss of energy, focus, concentration, and low libido. And they accept all insurance, even Medicare, for testosterone replacement therapy. Patients love the staff and the fact that, yes, I'm going to say it again, they accept all insurance, including Medicare. Feel better? Call U.S. Men's Medical Center at 636-244-5333.
You had a solid retirement dream: sell your home in a few years, bank the equity, downsize, and travel. But with an unpredictable economy and the future feeling uncertain, you're wondering if that equity will still be there when you're ready. What if you could bank that equity right now? With TrueHold, you can sell your home for its current value so you can access your equity today. You can bank the cash now and stay in the home you love with an easy standard lease. TrueHold even covers property taxes, insurance, and repairs. And since TrueHold hands over your equity in cash now, It's yours to do whatever you like. Don't let a shifting economy put your hard-earned equity at risk. Visit Truehold.com and receive their competitive offer on your home in just 48 hours, based on its best current value, not what's coming. Call 1-855-300-9993 or visit Truehold.com. The smarter, faster way to cash out on your home's value without moving. That's Truehold.com.
You've been listening to the very popular Wellness One for many years, Saturdays and Sundays on 97.1 FM Talk. We're happy to share that we've expanded the show to 4 times a week. Yes, 4 times every weekend. Saturday at 10 a.m., Saturday at 8 p.m., Sunday at 9 a.m., and Sunday at 2 p.m. It's the same great show designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you a common sense, science-based strategy for a healthy life. So join TJ and Aaron for Wellness One. Now 4 times a week on 97.1 FM Talk.
Oh, little Jack White here on the bumper music. I love this song. It rocks at the end, called That's How I'm Feeling.
When it's cold outside.
The way I was feeling in the last hour was a little frustrated with the process of the big, beautiful bill and Elon Musk and what he was saying. So here's Rand Paul. And again, I don't want anyone to misunderstand. I love Senator Paul. I love what he stands for. Here's why he does not support the big, beautiful bill. Here's what he said earlier today.
Well, the main thing that I object to is raising the debt ceiling $4 or $5 trillion. That's an indication that we'll borrow that much. It's an indication that we'll put the debt on the back burner. We'll have no more discussion of it for a year or two. And really, we're locked in a year right now where in March of this year, most of the Republicans, not me, voted to continue the Biden spending levels in March. So we're operating under a continuing resolution, which originated as Biden spending levels. You remember Republicans saying, Bidenomics, Biden inflation, Biden this, Biden that. Well, they voted for that in March. So the deficit here at the end of the fiscal year, at the end of September, will be about $2.2 trillion. I'm not for that, so I voted against the spending levels. But now they want me to vote for $5 trillion worth of increase in a debt ceiling, and I'm just not for that. That's not conservative.
Well, and I understand that, but again, I don't know what the options are. He can, the other way that this game is played is President Trump or whoever's in office says, okay, we can afford to have you take your principled stand, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to pass the bill. I don't know how this is going to land. I hope to get Senator Schmidt on the air here either tomorrow or on Thursday to talk about it. Jen Say's coming up from XXXY Athletics, who's really good on the women's sports issue because her company is standing up for women and saving women's sports. But I want to get into some audio before that. So 2 Oregon high school girls refused to share the podium with a trans competitor at the state track and field championships. It's pretty inspirational when you see these 2 students from Tigard High School, Alexa Anderson and Reese Eckerd from Sherwood High School. Here's John Roberts talking about it a little earlier with Riley Gaines.
These girls, in this particular case, did compete. They actually placed higher than the biological male, but they were still punished by a male official who shooed them away and said, get out of the picture.
That's what they do. That's what they've done the past few years, really. Any girl who dares to oppose this movement, who dares to even question this movement, they are the ones who are reprimanded, John, not the boy who's standing on the podium at their state championship, which bear in mind, John, this happened in 5 states this past week, 5 blue states. It happened in California, Oregon, Washington, Maine, and Minnesota, where boys were standing atop the podium at a women's state qualifying or state championship event. So these girls, to me, are heroines.
So just to repeat one of the points that John Roberts made, there's a race official. If you have not seen the video of this, Riley Gaines posted this out. As soon as they step down, he starts pointing them, get away from here, get away from there, because they were standing with their backs to the podium.
One of the athletes who was involved, Alexa Anderson, said this to Fox News Digital: we didn't refuse to stand on the podium out of hate. We did it because someone has to say this isn't right. And here's what she said when she elaborated to Laura Ingraham last night.
It's unfair because biological males and biological females compete at such different levels that allowing a biological male into our competition is taking up space and opportunity from all these hardworking women. The girl in 9th who should have been in 8th and had that podium spot had that taken away from her, as well as many others.
Which is heartbreaking. Can you believe, John, that a young girl, a high schooler,
she's maybe 15, 16, 17 years old, has to sit on national news to explain that boys and girls are different.
And I've made this point. These kids get it. Okay. They know what's going on. My daughter's at a softball camp with Rockwood this week. We have a neighbor who plays for the team, and they were all abuzz about the pitcher up in Minnesota who is smoking the competition because he is a biological male. It's not a she. And it's just an issue of fairness. But Jen Say is so good at getting into some of these things. And then there's the issue of and this is separate, okay? It's important to say, the boxer from the Olympics last year, who is not transgender, but is biologically a male. We'll get into that. Jen's great at explaining it. Coming up here, we have audio cut of the day as well before the show wraps. And we got Jack White right here.
I shouldn't have to be ashamed because that's how I'm feeling. That's how I'm feeling right now. That's how I'm feeling. That's how I'm feeling right now. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've been talking about the Royals this afternoon, and they are, of course, in town tonight. So we have a little extra volume if you are eastbound on 64. So a little bit at Timberlake Manor and then east of Lindbergh through Big Bend. We've also got some volume westbound as Illinois drivers join us for the events. Now, westbound 6440 still lines up near Kings Highway out past McCausland, but it's not bad out west. 70, a little slow at Wentzville, moderate volume on 64, and that's mainly Highway N out through the 70 split. Southbound 55, watch for a slowdown in the construction zone as you head toward Bates. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
We were talking about assessments a little while ago, and let's talk about real estate and the Gelman team from eXp Realty here in St. Louis. You can call them at 314-336-1991. It's actually a really good time to get Neil or Mark on to talk about the market because we know how difficult it was just a few years ago, and it's still difficult because supply and demand works in the home market just as way it does elsewhere as well. The supply is not quite there. The demand is higher. That's why you're building apartments everywhere. Some people have to move to apartments. But are you still going to get top dollar if you put your house on the market right now? Well, that's not guaranteed unless you're marketing it the right way. And that's why the Gelman team even says we're a marketing company that specializes in real estate. They have a proven process. They have a multi-point marketing plan. If you're just curious about what they do, what that process is all about, you can always start with the website, which is thegelmanteam.com. I mentioned the phone number, 314-336-1991. They have a tool right on the top of the website. It says, how much is your home really worth? Find out for free. You press that, a pop-up comes up. If you allow it, and you put in your address, it kicks you back a price that's pretty accurate. And then you can have the Gelman team take it from there. The real estate market is still very complicated. They may advise you, for example, you love your home, you love the way it looks. They may want to stage your home differently to get the right buyer. You got to listen to the experts. They're the experts at the Gelman team, the website, thegelmanteam.com.
Another RX Watch brought to you by Onder Law. There's an evil new twist in the tragic story of baby powder and its link to ovarian cancer. Recently uncovered documents reveal that talc can contain asbestos.
The same asbestos that we know causes mesothelioma.
Right, and ovarian cancer.
In the 1970s, the industry wrote its own rules, allowing Johnson & Johnson to claim that its talc was asbestos-free, as long as it contained less than 1% asbestos.
Of course, Johnson & Johnson helped write those rules. So while we're using hazmat suits to remove the asbestos from our homes, Johnson & Johnson was telling women it's safe for their bodies.
Unbelievable. So if you've used talcum powder for feminine hygiene and contracted ovarian cancer, call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
They've already won several large verdicts against Johnson & Johnson for women just like you.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH. That's 1-800-RX-WATCH or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Start your summer with a weekend showdown. Shohei Ohtani and the Los Angeles Dodgers roll into Busch Stadium June 6th through the 8th. Be there Friday for a cool new promo, the first ever Cardinals neck fan, perfect for hot game days. Then on Sunday, young fans 15 and under take home a Rawlings Kids glove. It's a weekend of big matchups and big giveaways. Get your tickets now at cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Mason Wynn, St. Louis Cardinals, for the loop.
The school year is finally over and it's summer vacation for all our teachers. Celebrate at Busch Stadium. Teachers Night presented by Millipore Sigma is back at the ballpark on Monday, June 9th. With the purchase of a special theme ticket, you can take home an exclusive teachers-inspired Cardinals jersey featuring the birds on a pencil. As a special treat, the first drink of the summer is on the Cardinals. That's Monday, June 9th. Teachers Night at the ballpark. For tickets and details, visit cardinals.com/theme.
This is Steven Matz, St. Louis Cardinals, for the loop.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
This portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
I feel the love, but not from the ones who love me.
All right, we have audio cut of the day coming up here. About 24 hours ago, I retweeted my next guest, Jennifer Say from XXXY Athletics. And it's a very interesting moment because this goes back, we were talking about these athletes that took down or stood down from the podium in Oregon. You had the situation in the Olympics last year, which is a little different than the situation with trans athletes because this is not a trans person, but a biological male. And Jen Say is here from XXXY Athletics to kind of break this down and explain it. Hello, Jen. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Let me play the audio, and I love that you attach this. This is the guy, Thomas Bach from the IOC, and this is what he said when all this was a controversy last year.
Some want to own the definition of who is a woman. And there I can only invite them to come up with a scientific based, a new definition of who is a woman and how can somebody being born, raised, competed and having a passport as a woman cannot be considered a woman.
So Jen, you very expertly said, well, here you go. Proof that Iman Kahif is a man. You're welcome, because the invitation was sort of answered here with this chromosome test, wasn't it?
It sure was. I mean, how silly. But he says in his stupid quote, sorry, it's so ridiculous.
Okay.
I have to just say it. He says, I invite you to come up with a new definition. We don't need a new definition. The old definition works just fine. XY chromosomes, if there's a presence of a Y chromosome, that's a male. And I'm very sorry for Imani Khalif. If when he was born, he was perceived to be a girl and he was raised as a girl. He knows at this point that he is not, and he has known since puberty, is my guess. And he enters the boxing ring with women, and he beats them, and he wins gold medal. So, wins a gold medal. So we don't need a new definition. It's kind of astonishing to me that the former head of the IOC would say such a dumb thing, but it's just proof of kind of this ideology having captured the imagination of the public, and they're willing to say the dumbest things to further it.
And this one is, it's a little harder to explain only because it's different than the transgender athletes that are taking the spots of athletes in Minnesota and California and Oregon, right? There's a little nuances. And I love that J.K. Rowling even said this, because she's been, and you've been, and I've been, we're all accused of being transphobic. She made it very clear, and I love her position. I know you do as well. She said, I never said and never believed that Khalif was trans. I knew he was a man. The gender activists who created a political climate in which sex testing was seen as bigoted are as culpable as the IOC for the travesty that ensued. And that's well stated, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I think just to be clear, and even the president has mistakenly said that Khalif is trans. He isn't trans. He is male with born with XY chromosomes with what is called a DSD, or a difference in sex development, likely something called 5-ARD, so that he presents as a female at birth in probably less developed countries that, maybe aren't as sophisticated. And at puberty, it probably becomes quite clear that he is male, because he will not menstruate. He doesn't have a uterus. He's a male. He just had underdeveloped genitals. Sorry to be sort of, if that's too much, but that is the case. So he presented as female, but then didn't develop breasts, didn't develop any of the secondary sex characteristics, developed as a male. Now, like I said before, I feel sorry for this person if they thought they were a female and then later learned they're male. I mean, that's a very difficult thing. But in the public discourse, while this person is not trans, it is the same ideology that underpins this notion that we cannot do sex testing, that there is no difference between male and female. And if you say you're a woman, you are. He says he's a woman. His passport says he's a woman. So the IOC is accepting that he is, but he's not. You can change documents. You can change pieces of paper. You cannot change sex.
So do you think that this is actually going to have an impact on the IOC? Because is this still in the category of a leaked chromosome test, or has it been established at this point? Not that I'm doubting it, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, will they actually have to confront this?
I believe that they will. I mean, I think, first of all, it starts with world boxing. So there's a new sport governing body for boxing. If you recall back in the Olympics, the IAB or the IBA, I'm not as close to sport governing bodies for boxing as I could be, they sort of lost governance, and the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, governed boxing in the Olympics. That's unusual. It's usually the individual sport governing bodies. There was a whole bunch of controversy surrounding the prior governing body. There is now a new one, World Boxing. They have just announced that for boxing, sex testing will be required, which you only need to do once, right? Because it doesn't change. So this is hardly an invasive process. I'm hoping they continue to uphold that. They'll certainly receive pressure, from the activist class. But they just announced days ago, sort of aligned with when this leaked sex test happened. Now, this test happened in 2023. I think it's incumbent upon World Boxing to uphold the policy that they've put out and put in place, which I believe that they will. And the IOC has said it's up to the individual sports, so they're going to have to leave it to boxing. What I hope is that they then put pressure on other sports to do the same.
So I know you saw this. Let's kind of get into a different territory here. And you have, even since we've last spoken, it's probably been 6 weeks or so, you've got a pitcher in Minnesota. You've got track athletes in both California and in Oregon taking spots away from women. And you have this gem of a piece of audio from Julie Hamill, who I was not familiar with Kate Bolden on CNN.
What would make this fair for her to compete for those who are competing against her? What would that kind of structure in competition look like?
Who is her?
AB.
Okay, AB Hernandez is a male who identifies as a female. What would be fair is to have Hernandez competing in the male category. It is not fair to the females competing to have to compete with a male.
So, Jen, I was, and maybe I was familiar with Julie, but shame on me if I wasn't, but she's one of my new heroes along with you and Riley Gaines, because that was quite an interview, wasn't it?
Amazing. Julie is a friend of mine. We met over the course of COVID. She was a fellow parent, kind of pushing back on all the lockdowns and school closures. And how genius is she in that clip? She just speaks in plain language. She challenges all the ridiculousness that the CNN quote unquote journalist smuggles into the conversation, and she has no part of it. And I think what Julie does so effectively in that interview is the activist class, journalists, they want the public, they want our eyes trained on these boys. All they do is ask us about how unfair it is for these boys, how they'll kill themselves if they can't compete in girls. And Julie shifts our perspective back to the girls. We are prioritizing boys' feelings over girls' rights every single day that this happens. And you're so right. Just this past week, last weekend, 5 states awarded boys medals in girls track and field, and I'm not even counting the pitcher in Minnesota. So this is accelerating, and what I'm trying to do with the brand is put the focus back on the girls.
Well, good. She was so heroic, and I'm sorry, I think I said it was Kate Bolden. It's Breonna Keeler. They all kind of mix and match together. But do you think, was Breonna Keeler being honest there? Did she not expect that reaction? Because that was just a smackdown of Breonna Keeler, right?
I don't think, you know what? I don't think she did expect it, because she only talks to people who agree with her and use the same dumb verbiage she uses. They don't invite people on CNN who challenge their views. Julie might have been the first one. So I think she was completely taken aback, and she looked sort of stunned, like a deer in the headlights. She couldn't believe somebody would correct her in that fashion and dare call a trans-identified boy a he.
Yeah, well,
Which is what he is.
she wound it back into, what Breonna Keeler did is, okay, well, Trump is, threatening to not give federal money. And she kind of ignores the fact that Title IX is rather important here. And she spins it in the way, well, would his federal funding threat hurt athletes? And she basically says, well, all these kids are going to hurt if they don't get federal money, just ignoring the fact of how unfair it is. And by the way, you should follow the law in Title IX, so then this wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, they've never challenged that in the past. The whole point of having Title IX is you have to adhere to the law or you don't get the federal funding. That's the sort of cudgel, right? I mean, that's the point. So if universities in the past or public education, school systems in the past weren't allocating equal funding to girls' sports, girls' educational opportunities, that would be the result. They had no issue with that. But now they're twisting the meaning of Title IX to include gender identity. And now suddenly, Brianna, is that her name, has an issue with the way it's always meant to work. And there is a solution: protect girls' sports, protect girls' opportunities. Then you can have your federal funding.
Well, I have to, before I let you go here, Jen, say, because I'm a fan of the gear, and I have let me go back. I had the blue XXXY hat, and it was my favorite hat. My wife was stealing it from me, and I don't like to share. Okay. So I took that hat with me to Greece a few weeks ago, and I lost it in the airport in Frankfurt. I think that's where it disappeared. So when I came back, I bought two. So then I don't have to share. And I bought the black one as well. But I shared this with a guest yesterday, and I guess this is reflective of the moment. We adopted a puppy, my daughter and I, and my wife's out of town right now, but we have a new puppy in our household. And I went to an event with the Humane Society the other day, and I had my XXXY gear on because I love it. And there are literally people with they, them, name tags and stuff like that. So by the time I was at this adoption event in downtown St. Louis at the aquarium, I had to pick the dog up. We picked the dog up later in the afternoon. And I swear to God, only because of my daughter, and I was worried about retribution, I took the hat off. I guess that was not very brave of me, but I was worried that the they, them was going to do something to not allow me to get this puppy. I'm just telling you. So, but I love the gear. You know how much of a fan I am.
You know what? I totally understand. I obviously wear it every day. And there's days when I go out where I'm like, I just don't want to deal with it today. You know what I mean? And I wear something perhaps more subtle. I still wear it, but not the big logo, because there's days I feel it too. It's tough out there if you take a stand on this issue. Well, so you're forgiven. I understand.
Thank you. But I mean, going back to what happened in Oregon, if people watched the video, just before we welcomed you into the show, I played some of Riley on Fox with John Roberts earlier today, talking about the girls in Oregon. And I know that I think Laura Ingraham had one of the athletes on last night. One of the most outrageous things about that is you got the guy that's shooing, they're standing in front of the podium trying to make a stand, and the guy's like shooing them away like they're nothing, even though they're the girls that should be on that podium.
Yeah, it's really, I think what you've just articulated is the thing that's most alarming for me, is we're telling girls, do not speak, do not stand up in your own defense. After, 30 years of girl power, you can do anything. The future is female. We're telling girls, be quiet, sit down, stop being selfish. Who cares if you get second place? He matters more than you. That's what we're telling them. And those girls who did a very respectful protest were ushered away, just in the same way back in 2022, Riley was told, you need to stand down and let him take the trophy. We're prioritizing boys' feelings over girls' rights.
Well, it's outrageous. Yeah, it's outrageous.
I want to send young girls. Yeah.
You're highlighting it. Riley's highlighting it. It just tell Julie Hamels, I bet she's got a lot more fans after that SmackDown the other night. That was just brilliant. Really, really good. Yeah. But thank you, Jen Say. I always appreciate your help here on the show.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
She's great. I love the gear. I really do love the gear. I've said this before. She's not paying me to say this, but it's really good quality. And I love wearing my hat. My wife has this true story, Sue. I don't like to share. So I had to buy two hats just so Becky can have one. And then I bought an extra one for myself too, because I'm very selfish. Here we go. Audio cut of the day is coming up.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Baseball football game tonight at 6:45. We take on the Royals, and there is some traffic westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. So if you're headed in from Illinois, expect a bit of a slow go. And eastbound 64 slowing at Clarkson, and then east of Lindbergh through Big Bend, and then it opens up. Westbound 70 looking much better out of downtown, little slow out at Wentzville. And westbound 64, really not that bad. Now, if you're southbound on 55, we generally have that slow go through the construction zone. And right now, it's mainly as you approach Bates. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
I know I've asked you this before, but every once in a while, I'm not on 55 hardly ever, but every once in a while I am. And you know, I used to live where you live, but are they ever going to be done with that construction?
Oh,
like
my
ever
gosh.
in the time
Mark,
that we are alive on the planet?
I hope so. Fred and I talk about it, but they've even closed the ramp from southbound 55 to Loughborough. That's how bad it is. And Germania.
So you can't get off at Loughborough,
Right.
period, is what you're saying.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's
it's gotten
progress.
worse, Mark.
Hey, there's your tax dollars at work, right?
Mizzou football is here to stay. After an undefeated home season and a second straight 10-win year, the Tigers are looking for more in 2025.
Eli and the boys have done it again.
With a top 10 transfer portal class and a strong home schedule highlighted by Kansas, Alabama, South Carolina, and Texas A&M, you don't want to miss out. Get your spot in line by joining the season ticket waitlist at mutigers.com/FB waitlist. MIZ.
Retirement statements just hit mailboxes, and for many, the shock is real. Some investors lost 20% or more in just the first quarter. If you're close to retirement, that's more than a dip. It's a danger. But here's what most advisors won't tell you. Gold was up over 30% during the same time. That's a 60% swing. And at retirement, that kind of gap can change everything. So compare your Q1 statement to gold's performance. Then call Noble Gold Investments. Noble Gold specializes in helping people protect what they've earned with real assets like gold and silver. If you're tired of watching your nest egg shrink, it may be time for a change. And right now, when you open a qualified account, you'll receive a free 10-ounce silver American flag bar. Compare and call 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. Or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Ready for instant curb appeal that comes with a 25-year transferable warranty? Call Rhino Shield today. We do brick, block, stucco, asbestos, aluminum, steel, cedar, and more. Over the past 20 years, we've done thousands of homes, businesses, churches, schools, condos, parking garages, large metal buildings, and strip malls, from Champaign to the Lake of the Ozarks. We do flat and sloped metal roofs to extend their lives too. Proud to be veteran-owned and manufactured in the good old USA. So we're tariff-free. We're exceeding expectations every day. Evaluations are free. A+ rated with the BBB and a lot of 5-star Google reviews. Call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Don't hate, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon, and I've been thinking about how big life changes like moving can feel a little overwhelming. But then I visited New Perspective in Weldon Spring, and let me tell you, it changed my view. It might change yours as well. It's a brand new senior living community in Weldon Spring where older adults can thrive, not just reside. They've thought about everything. At New Perspective, your loved one will enjoy chef-prepared meals, activities, state-of-the-art technology, and a welcoming community. Check out npseniorliving.com and schedule a tour today. New Perspective, the friendlier approach to senior living.
Protect your liver and give it the support that it deserves by making Active Liver from New Nordic part of your daily wellness routine. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or newnordicusa.com.
The Mark Cox Morning Show.
Wednesday, it's official. The DOJ is investigating Biden's use of the auto pen. We'll talk to Genevieve Wood from Heritage at 7:20.
The Mark Cox Morning Show. Weekdays from 5 to 9. Right here on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, let me offer a thank you to Mark Cox because he's kind of walked me into something here this afternoon unintentionally from what he just said there.
Stand by. Playback ready. Initiating sequence.
Now, the audio cut of the day.
That auto pen came up today at the White House briefing, and we've covered a lot of Elon today, but this is important too. Here's Peter Ducey's question to Carolyn.
When you look at these last-minute Biden pardons, the big ones, Biden siblings, Fauci, January 6th committee.
That's right.
Most of the big ones have the same very neat signature. We would expect that probably to be the auto pen. There is one that looks different. It looks authentic. In fact, if you look at the last name, it almost looks like the president was having a hard time spelling his last name there. Is this White House of the opinion that the only pardon that would count is one that the president signed himself?
It's very interesting. Very interesting props. If you want to bring them to my office later so I can take a closer look, I would like to do that. The president is making a good point when he discusses the usage of the auto pen. Who was running the country for the past 4 years? Perhaps those documents were signed with the auto pen, something that this, I believe the Department of Justice is looking into. As you saw, Ed Martin made an announcement at the Department of Justice this morning to launch an investigation because the American people deserve answers.
You know, of course, Sue, if you would just Google this right now and you're an American citizen that would say, you know what, that might be a good question, because Peter Ducey literally has visuals that show you the difference between one signature where it looks like he indicated this, Joe Biden couldn't even scratch his initials out, and the auto pen. So, of course, it's leading. I have all faith and confidence that if I went to the New York Times homepage right now, that if I went to the Washington Post, if I went to STL Today, that crappy piece of you-know-what, that I'd find really extensive coverage. But let's take this seriously. That's a legit question.
It is.
Who the hell was running the country the last 4 years? Now, legally, and whether or not that's something that they can go after and say these aren't, these are not legal because the auto pen is not Joe Biden. Who the hell was Joe Biden? Was it Jill? Was it Ron Klain who was doing it? But that is a fascinating question. They mentioned Ed Martin. Of course, he's from St. Louis. Ed's a little too crazy for me. I've known Ed for a long time, but I do think that the issue is very, very serious. We'll talk about it with Brian Kilmeade tomorrow at 3:25. Have a great night.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Hey, if you're headed to the ball game tonight, there is some volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge as Illinois drivers come on in. And we've got eastbound traffic on 64 with some moderate volume at Timberlake Manor, and then east of Lindbergh through Big Bend before it opens up. Westbound 40 a little slow at Lindbergh, but then it's fine. 70 is slow out at Wentzville, but that's looking a lot better. Even southbound 55 is in pretty good shape, headed down toward Bates. Now, I'm seeing a pretty hardcore jam going on westbound Highway 30, headed for High Ridge Boulevard. Could be an accident out there. And that's about it.
I don't want to hear that.
Sorry
that's
about
not what
that.
I want to hear.
I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been for us, for anybody, because you'll get a true partnership and you'll be able to rest easy that you're going to get the service that you need while they're also doing all those things that you don't want to have to think about, that you don't want to have to worry about. They're always doing that in the background for you.
Don't wait for your next IT crisis. If your business depends on technology, you need a partner that's got your back. Contact ThrottleNet.com to get a free IT evaluation and see how we can support your IT everything.
If you're trying to sell a home, there's only one agent in town that I trust, Mark and Neil Gelman of eXp Realty. My friends Mark and Neil have the best system to connect you to the best qualified buyers, getting your home sold fast and for top dollar. 314-336-1991. Go to thegelmanteam.com.
Is thinning hair or receding hairline making you self-conscious? Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
Do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is letting everyone know about great debt relief options now available to help people with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of your credit card debt. Get a free debt relief consultation when you call 800-586-4040. 800-586-4040. 800-586-4040.
If you worry your roof may be damaged from the recent storms, don't trust just anyone. Call my friend Curtis at Corel Roofing for all your repairs. Mark Cox here. Watch out for those out-of-town storm chasers. They hire anybody they can pull together quickly. Corel Roofing is local, and they have crews with over 20 years of experience in the business. They don't overcommit. When other roofing companies do that, quality suffers and customer service drops off. They pay a lot of attention to details. They use quality materials, and you can trust their workmanship. I'm trusting Curtis Corel to fix my roof. You can trust him as well. They also specialize in all the luxury line roofing, slate, architectural shingles, metal roofs, and other luxury shingles. He's done work for a friend of mine, and it's outstanding. You can call him at 314-222-9529. That's 222-9529, or on Facebook at Corel Roofing.
Annie Fry here. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They are the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com.
The Diamond Shop, 20% off all watches, even Movado, 40% off all men's in-stock jewelry, plus 40% off all pearl jewelry and in-stock wedding bands. Continues until June 28th. 10% VIP, extra 10% off purchase. Not valid for watches through the month of June.
97.1 FM Talk is proud to partner with Guns N' Hoses to support St. Louis area tornado victims, and we need your help. This is Annie inviting you to bring supplies to Dave Munganast St. Louis Honda Monday through Saturday. Visit 971talk.com/relief.
KFTK FM Florissant, an Odyssey station.
The plan in place. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Tariffs on steel and aluminum imported to the U.S. will go up tomorrow to 50%.
A 50% tax will be added to most steel and aluminum imported to the U.S., double the tariff from what President Trump initially planned to impose. The president announced the spike last week while visiting U.S. Steel near Pittsburgh, calling the industry vital to national security and the supply chain. The UK will be exempt. Imports from that country will remain at 25% as part of a framework trade deal reached last month.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. Elon Musk again torching President Trump's so-called big beautiful bill, calling it a disgusting abomination. The White House says President Trump is aware of Musk's position on the tax and spend measure, and it's full steam ahead. The Congressional Budget Office estimated the bill would increase the deficit by $4 trillion. The White House says the wife and 5 children of Mohammed Soleiman, the suspect in Sunday's firebombing attack at a pro-Israel march in Boulder, Colorado, could be deported as soon as tonight.
As authorities investigate if they knew about or had any involvement in Sunday's fiery attack. Moments before it all began, witnesses say Soleiman was dressed like a gardener, wearing an orange vest, carrying a backpack sprayer and flowers.
Fox's Alicia Acuna in Boulder. Soleiman is an Egyptian national who has been living in the U.S. illegally. Authorities say he had 18 Molotov cocktails, but threw just 2 of them because he got scared. Witnesses say he shouted "Free Palestine" when he carried out the attack. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has reportedly ordered the Navy to rename the USNS Harvey Milk, the ship named after the assassinated gay rights activist who served during the